Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on August the 1st, 2017. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, my number one pitch.
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games that we played. We'll be determining the value of games in a general topic. We'll be pitching you a couple of game ideas in another general topic. We'll discuss a couple of hidden gems that we've picked out.
In another general topic.
We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage. How are you?
I'm actually doing pretty good. Better than the house near me.
Yeah, there's another house fire close to you.
Yeah, I do apologize for any background noise, but you put up with noise I already put out, so what the hell at this point?
If it makes you feel better, I can't hear anything coming through your mic, so...
Well, there isn't anything going on right now, but the thing is that about, I would say an hour or two ago, it was just a fire truck. Oh, another fire truck. Oh, an ambulance. Oh, here comes the fire trucks from a different fire department. Oh, here comes the ones from the other direction. Oh, here comes the ones from across the fucking river. Oh, here comes the ones from another town from across the fucking river.
Pretty much every podcast that I've ever listened to has an episode every once in a while where the, like, fire trucks or cop cars or ambulances or something can be heard in the background. So I'm not too worried about it.
Well, at least it's better than my recording of RimWorld, where in the background I was just hearing for 4 episodes worth before I decided wasn't worth the effort to try to fix that audio. So Siren was probably, would probably be more desirable than, just cat and heat.
Probably. Oh. Yeah. I'm having a better week this week than the last few weeks. Well, when I say better, I mean more organized. I had a chat with my boss about how he needs to slow his roll with giving me all this work.
Here I was thinking, your boss was saying, okay, now don't fuck this one. Don't fuck this one. Okay, maybe fuck this one a little bit.
No, definitely not. But after,
give this one the fidget spinner, if you know what I mean. Actually, that does sound like a really bad sex term, you know?
Yeah, give him the fidget spinner?
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if that's like a Superman, a clumsy Superman. A fidget spinner's a clumsy Superman. Or maybe like a sped up helicopter.
Oh, where have we gone?
But basically, the point I was trying to make before I got so derailed, there's no coming back. I'm not having to work as much from this week forward as I was the last few weeks, so things are leveling out for me. I do have to get up at fucking 6 in the morning and leave my house at 6:30 to go get supervision tomorrow, so that's gonna be fun. But, I'll get used to it eventually.
So, basically, you're going to be the one on high on caffeine.
Yeah. I've already got everything ready for tomorrow. My backpack's ready. I got all my clothes sitting out in the kitchen so that I can just get up and, leave the bedroom and hopefully not wake Katie up. And I've got a cup of coffee, pre-made. All I got to do is push the button on my little...
I was about to say, I hope that, you're waiting till in the morning to have it made.
Yeah, I got to put... all I got to do is push the button on my Ninja. I like cold brew.
Well, cold brew iced coffee. I mean, you can make that beforehand, but I'm not sure if that would wake you up quite as much. Well, cold brew does have more caffeine in it just because, it brews for longer.
Yeah, it's less acidic as well. But, no, I got it all ready, and all I got to do is push the button on my Ninja.
All right,
get
Frank.
my cup of coffee. So I'm ready to go. So, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to skedaddle into bed.
Well, I hope Katie doesn't mind changing the sheets if you do that.
Oh. But yeah, I had an interesting week of games that I played. So let's just go ahead and go talk about the games that we played this week.
Well, we're actually going to talk about games?
Yeah. Obviously, you're going to go first, but when I get to my games, you'll see why I felt like it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at your list and thinking, boy, I don't think any of these would hold my attention for very long.
Nope.
And I'm talking about your entire list, by the way.
You might be wrong about the last one on the list. That one was actually really good.
But speaking of games that didn't hold my attention for very long, let's start off with Kingdoms and Castles. This is a game that I had a review code of last week, and I decided not to do it last week because I didn't think I would be able to give it the time it warranted. I thought, this would require a couple days worth of play. Oh boy, was I wrong. Yeah, Kingdoms and Castles, this is a town building, castle, tower defense kind of hybrid. It's a town builder with a combat element. And I was expecting, to have to spend some time on it to actually get enough time to really say that I played the game. I put 2 hours into it and felt like I played the entire damn thing.
Oh shit, I've got Kingdoms and Castles. I got a review code for it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was expecting you to play it. That's because I saw that you had it. It's like, oh, we're going to be able to both say bad things about this game.
I didn't even notice that I had it. I'm not going to lie. I've been busy.
Welcome to my world. Only problem is that it's more, down the road, it's, wow, this game sounds really good. This person's really sold it to me. I'm going to go check out this game. Maybe put it on my wish list. I have this game. When did I get this game? Oh, review code about a year ago. Right. But anyway, Kingdoms and Castles. This is one of those games that I was playing and, I was thinking, this has a nice base to it. And I didn't really look at the store page beforehand. I got the review code and looked at the blurb on the site that I use. And the problem is that that's like, if it's an early access game, unless they say it in the base text of the game or on the store page, it doesn't show early access. And I was thinking, wow, this is a nice place for an early access game to start. Then I went to the main page. This is a full release? Really? My primary problem with this game is that there's not a lot to do in it. Your supply chains are practically non-existent. You have, you mine iron and, quarry stone, and you use those for, the stone is direct building material, and the iron goes to a blacksmith with, charcoal, that's made in another building, and that's pretty much the extent of the supply chains. Everything else is just building up your town's population and building up a castle to defend yourself. And that is really it. And it's a shame because it is a very... it's one of those games, it's a very pretty game because it's so simplistic, but it's a simplistic art style that's done well. If that makes any sense. I'm sure you're looking at the screenshots right now, Jared.
Yeah, It's
a very clean look.
It's like 16-bit cell shaded.
I would go with a really well done early 3D game because of how it's a low polygonal count on everything. But there's very, very few buildings in all the different menus, and that's why I was feeling that it was a early access game, that and the fact that it had a build number or a version number in the upper right hand corner, which is usually indicative of an early access game. Whenever they do that, they'll have that, so whenever they have gameplay on some random schmuck's YouTube channel like Gaming with Caffeine Rage, ding, you can see what version you're on. So it's that combined with the just sheer lack of content that was making me think that it was a early access title without really looking at it. And once I played it and went to dive a little deeper, and that's when I realized, and it's really disappointing because up until that point where I kind of hit the wall of content or the I shouldn't even say wall of content. I should say the cliff where, everything dropped off. It wasn't bad, but if you look at the screenshots, you can see pretty much it's building up the town's population, and that's about it.
Yeah. I'm browsing through the reviews right now on Steam, and almost everyone points out that it's very simple
Simplistic.
or content light or, casual friendly. Like, I'm seeing a lot of those phrases on the reviews.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I ended up saying in mine, was that I realized that this isn't a game for me. This isn't for someone that has 200 episodes of RimWorld on YouTube. This is for someone that is wanting to dabble in the town builder, that wants to see what all the hubbub is about, or, to have something to dabble with. This almost feels Facebook level of complexity, where it's everything's coming from the Viking attacks that happen every so often that you could actually turn off to make it just a pure, very, very simplistic town builder. The dragon attacks, which are pretty much the same thing, they show up. And the random fires, which the fires, ironically, since I was talking about having background noise because of one today, appear very randomly, and there's really no rhyme or reason to them. All of a sudden, your farms are on fire. Why? And the fact that also the time scale on everything is so compressed that if you just hit 3x speed or fast forward or whatever, you'll go through a year of gameplay in less than a minute. And
it's pretty quick.
And just the combination of the time scale and the really lack of things to do makes it feel even more content-like than what it really is. It was disappointing. Very disappointing. Granted, you'd probably be a lot kinder to it because you are a lot kinder to games than me.
I'll check it out this week, and then I can report back next week on it.
Yeah, let's see
since I have it.
Yeah, let's see if you're entertained for more than 2 hours with it.
Yeah, because I also heavily play this style of game. And I mean, I don't play RimWorld or Dwarf Fortress, but I've played many, many complex city builders and that sort of thing, so...
Yeah, and it also is lacking a lot of quality of life issues or it has a lot of quality of life issues that really kind of bugged me as well. Like, you can't preset a blueprint, for example, like Banished. Banished is probably a really good allegory with this because Banished was also kind of lambasted for being not quite as complex as it should be. Being a little bit on the simple side, but this is even more so. But Banished allowed you to put down your blueprints beforehand for your buildings, and then just mark them off whenever you're ready to build them. This, you have to have all the resources. It's road-based building, SimCity, I think, would be a good example, where everything has to be built on a road. The modern SimCity, I should say. The latest ones.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the roads aren't click and drag. You have to click, 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 and it's very tedious. Everything revolves around your food supply, which you may expect, but there's really no reason to try to improve your food supply. Because there is a bakery, which I think improves happiness, maybe, but it wasn't very clear what it was doing. And honestly, everyone just grabbed food from the stockpile and brought it to their house, and they were happy with the raw grain. And it uses the Banished style of everyone hoards a little bit of food and stores it away. So your actual stockpile isn't the amount of food people actually have access to. It's your extra, which is kind of throws you off to begin with.
Right.
And also every house, well, it depends on the size of the house, has a certain number of heads of household. Either 1, 2, or I think it's 3 for the last one. It may be 4. I can't recall if it doubles again or not. but those are the only ones that actually collect supplies for the household. But the fact that a single household, or the maximum size could go up to 30 people, makes it so that you're relying on a very small number of people to supply a large population, which also causes a problem.
Okay.
Combat is combat honestly feels more tower defense-ish than anything else, because everything is built around these towers and your castle defenses as well. You do have access to a direct army eventually, but it's so simplistic that you're better off just building up towers. Outside of art style, there wasn't a lot I liked about this game, as you may expect.
Yeah, that's, usually how it goes, but that's okay.
Wait, are you saying that I'm cynical about games or something?
No, I would never say that.
Out loud. But yeah, I don't think this is for someone that's a veteran of the genre, which is disappointing, because I really wanted another town builder, but this is definitely not it. But it seems to be very popular on Steam. It's actually in the top sellers. So what the hell do I know?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a huge push in gaming here in the last few years to make a niche game. And then usually, after a niche game has been made a few years later, someone tries to take a niche game and make it more accessible or mainstream. And this may be one of those attempts.
Well, to be fair, RimWorld is basically taking what Dwarf Fortress was and making it more accessible, but it's still, very deep and very challenging.
Yeah.
So it's more of how simplistic do you make it?
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. I mean, people seem to like it, but it's brand new, so there might be... It was funded on Fig. I think it was the first game funded on Fig, actually.
Yeah, that's what they say here. It succeeded with 725% of its goal. I wonder where they put the rest of the money.
Into the art style.
Well, to be fair, I think I could make something with this art style. That is the thing that we should probably talk about at some point, is retro art styles.
Okay,
because
sure.
Maybe that will be something for the general topic list, is that there's definitely a fine line between retro art styles being artistic or being a nostalgia-driven artistic choice and making up for a lack of artistic skill.
Right.
And I don't think that this is making up for a lack of artistic skill, because everything is done really well with their textures. But there's definitely games out there that you look at that's pixel art that you're thinking, yeah, you're doing this because you couldn't draw, right? Admit it, you've seen those games, right?
I have, but I do tend to like... Well, no, I really like cell shading. Pixel art's not really my thing, but I love cell shading, and that's
Don't get me wrong. I do like low poly art styles like this, and this is definitely low poly. I mean, just look at the trees in the screenshots, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
They're green butt plugs.
Aw, yeah, my favorite color and one of my favorite things.
Unfortunately, they don't have a fidget spinner on them.
Wah, wah. Alrighty, what else did you play?
I was going to say the low poly art style is something that's not completely played out like pixel art, so it does have that going for it,
which is nice.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm done.
All right.
Well, my other game that I played was just starting up the series for The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 3, and I'm not terribly far into the game just yet, so we'll have to wait a few months before I really am able to rip it apart. I will say, this one, they definitely changed things up from the previous one. Whew. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing. The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing is this is the end of a trilogy of action RPGs. And this one, it seems like they were trying to boil things down quite a bit. And they also changed up the character classes, which is a little strange for a third installment. The previous two had essentially the same character classes and had an import system where you could bring in your character and have the same level and the same skills. But for the third one, they completely removed the class I was playing, which was a little weird. And made it so that the import only carried over essentially the extra advancement points that I never really ground out. So, yeah, I'm basically starting up a brand new character in the third installment, which is just strange. Even though it's just an overarching story. Granted, because I do have all three, they did include a copy of Van Helsing Final Cut, which is all three of the games with the third game's character system, but I'm not sure if I'm sold on it. What they did was they condensed down a lot of the skills, they condensed down a lot of the talents, and it just feels a lot more simplistic, which we'll have to see if the game is able to carry itself on its story, because I think that's what's really going to make or break it at this point. Granted, I'm not a huge ARPG fan. I do play a few of them. Matter of fact, this is the fourth one on my channel, after the previous two Van Helsing games and Victor Braun. Which, that is also something kind of interesting, is that of all the ARPGs I played have been kind of a dark fantasy / horror game. But that's also kind of a thematic for ARPGs, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty common for them. We've talked, I think, on the podcast before about the Van Helsing games, and I've got the first two. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just not a big fan of them. Like, I got them as a review copy back when I used to write reviews for Left Stick Down. So, like, I've had them for a long time. I just never got into them because they're not my thing.
Well, we're going to have to see if Torchlight changes that at some point.
Yeah.
Because Torchlight is one of those games that, yes, it does boil down the ARPG genre, but it also doesn't make it overly simplistic. And that's where you kind of have to find that really fine line. It's kind of coincidental that both my games are rather simplistic examples of their genres this week, isn't it?
Yeah, I need to find a sci-fi ARPG. Because, I mean, sci-fi is my thing. I will overlook a lot of stuff for some good sci-fi. So, I'm sure there's more than one out there. Because I don't peruse this genre, I don't know about any of them. I think it's called Space Hack, which was free some time ago, like a couple of years ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I've played it, and it's okay. I probably got farther in it than I have in any other ARPG.
Yeah, the only ARPG, I did a quick search and then I remembered, the only one that I could really think of is one that you can't even play now. Darkspore.
Never heard of it.
Darkspore was the sequel to Spore.
Oh, okay.
And it was online only, and they took it offline, I think, earlier this year. It wasn't particularly good. They were trying to do an ARPG with the Spore engine, but wasn't letting people really go wild with Spore, like, the first game.
Yeah.
So it was more, you'd get a few parts, but what I think they really should have done with Darkspore was, okay, fine, you have your abilities tied to parts, but let people build their creatures from scratch and have that also work out for their stats. So, a quadruped would possibly be faster if it's built sleek enough, but it would be a lot less tanky, but make something with a lot more bulk, and it would move slower, that sort of thing. Looking back, I really want them to try Sport again. Granted, this is EA, and there's no way in hell they're going to do that, but actually put some effort into it.
Yeah.
and not dumb it down to essentially, I would say middle school level. And it's also kind of weird how, okay, Spore was supposed to be an evolution game, but it played more like a god game.
Yeah. So another one, one that I have played, another sci-fi one I played is Drox Operative, which I talked about it on the show. I think I got it last summer on
Yeah.
the Steam sale, or maybe 2 summers ago. But it's pretty. I liked Drox Operative because I mean, it's a sci-fi sort of spaceship ARPG, but there's not a lot of direction in the game. So I was okay with it since it was sci-fi, but it was just like, hey, go discover the story yourself. And I played it for a while, and I was like, I don't know enough about this genre to
Yeah,
be able to really dig into it like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of ARPGs are in the fantasy or dark fantasy genres just because Diablo is kind of the precursor to a lot of it. Yes, I realize Diablo isn't the only game in town, but you have to admit that they are the biggest. So you'll see a lot of people aping on Diablo, like how MMOs were taking off from EverQuest from WoW. So you see a lot of fantasy in the MMO genre and not a lot of anything else. Yes, there are exceptions, like Eve, for example, but you still have a huge fantasy base in both those genres because that's what people are comfortable with. That's what people know.
Yeah. Maybe someday. I'll keep looking. I should go to I think the gaming suggestion subreddit and ask, like, hey, I'm looking for a sci-fi themed ARPG. Here's the ones that I've tried. What else is out there?
And then you'll just see a tumbleweed go by.
Every time I've asked for something in gaming suggestions, I get that. Like, people are like, we don't know what the fuck it is you're talking about. Because I've actually got some pretty, like, Naval Ops. I went there, like, a couple of years ago. Like, is there any other games that have ever been made like this? And people are like, what is this game you're talking about? Actually, some people who were on there were like, oh, this looks like it'd be right up my alley. I'm sorry there's not another one, but thanks for telling me this game exists. I'm like, well, you're welcome, I guess. But, yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe
and who knows, I
someday.
mean, maybe Torchlight will be the one for me.
Yeah, I will say that the first Torchlight wasn't nearly as good as the second one, but it's also comes down to really fatigue. Yes, Torchlight 1 technically had different dungeons because of how it was set up, but there wasn't any break in between them.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to really a matter of pacing. It's one thing to have a dungeon that has 100 levels. It's another thing to have 10 dungeons that each have 10 levels. Which is still, massively, probably just absolutely huge. And something that most people wouldn't want to go through.
Yeah.
But it's the same basic idea. You have that break in between each major one. And Torchlight 2, it doesn't even have 10 with 10 levels. I think it's more like, I want to say like 66 with 3 levels each, or something like that. That's how they break it down more than the absolutely massive Tower of Death. Not that Tower of Death is a bad thing, but it's what people are really wanting. But anyway, Van Helsing, completely off track, and we'll come all the way back around. This is hopefully gives a good conclusion to the storyline, because I don't think they're going to make another one, at least from what I could tell. And really don't recall all that well the details of the previous two, which we're starting to fall into the whole Divinity Original Sin of, wait, why are we here again? Hopefully without the ass kicking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much all for Van Helsing, at least for right now. I only have a little over an hour in it. And, well, there is a chimera in it named Fluffy. So you got that going for you.
That's great.
No, that's actually, well, whenever you get this giant monster, Katarina, your ghost companion, who actually behaves a lot like the pets in Torchlight. She could go back to town and sell. And she's also a combat character, and so not quite like the pets in Torchlight. She did. she proclaims that its name should be Fluffy. And I decide, yes, it shall be named Fluffy. And I've completely forgot about the Chimera. So in the second episode, which will be releasing the day before this podcast comes out, I come into the hideout in the second episode and looking around. It's like, oh yeah, I remember all this. Come up to the Chimera. Fluffy? I completely forgot about Fluffy. Granted, they did take out the ability to summon Fluffy into combat, and Fluffy is now more of a loot pinata. Send Fluffy out to go cause havoc and bring back toys. But still, Fluffy.
Fluffy.
And it does have a lot of other little... I hate to call it Facebook elements, but it's really lack of a better term, where it's things that play out in real time. So you send out your army to go take care of a mission off screen, and it has a real time countdown timer that counts off as you play. And Fluffy works the same way. I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes. Enough to discourage you from just sitting there and continuously sending out Fluffy to go get toys. But long enough that, short enough that it's not something that you're going to do once when you're in the hideout and never do it again, right?
Right.
It's really trying to find that, once again, the fine balance between the two. And yeah, I think we're done with Van Helsing, and it's time for your list of games that would not hold my interest one bit.
Well, the first one on the list is Mass Effect once again.
Like I said,
I finally decided to check out multiplayer. And it's alright. I mean, it's basically Mass Effect 3's multiplayer combined with some of the things from Dragon Age Inquisition's multiplayer. So it's mostly horde mode, and then there's other objectives you have to complete on the map that you're on. So fight off waves of enemies. I'm not sure if it's
possible for me to have less interest in this multiplayer now.
Fight off waves of enemies, complete the objective on the map. Sometimes you get a choice, and it's like, if you have the right team composition, you can go off and do the bonus objective, or maybe unlock an alternate path to something and get like some bonus loot or whatever. But I mean, basically it's horde mode with completing the little objectives and then getting to the extraction point.
Sorry, I played Alliance.
I mean, it's alright. I enjoyed Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. I mean...
Well, what do you think about them, the rumors at least? I don't think there's ever been any official acknowledgement of this, that they canceled plans for single-player DLC to focus on the multiplayer stuff.
I mean, that doesn't bother me. I feel like
it seems disappointing.
Mass Effect has always been about the single-player story, but I've never really cared much about the DLC content. The main game is always better than any story mode DLC they've ever put out for the Mass Effect series. So I don't mind that.
If you was to tell Jared just how wrong he is, be sure to email us at vtlpodcast@gmail.com.
No, I'm definitely right. As with Mass Effect being my number one favorite game series of all time, I'm definitely right. But I'm okay with that. The multiplayer mode is still really solid and fun. There's definitely a lot more variety in it compared to Mass Effect 3's multiplayer and Dragon Age Inquisition's multiplayer, which, like I said, a bunch of this feels like it's based on. So, I mean, it's fun. I enjoy it. It's
maybe this is why you're looking forward to Anthem and I'm not. Is that I play a BioWare game for the story and not the multiplayer.
I mean, the story for Mass Effect Andromeda is really good, but like, if I want to sit down and play Mass Effect for less than an hour, I'm going to multiplayer, because you can do 2 or 3 matches in about an hour. You get some little bits of story that build on stuff that you've been doing in single player, because you have to progress through the single player story to unlock some of the missions in multiplayer. So you get some little, I don't know, bonuses and codex entries and stuff like that. But it's fun. It's enjoyable. I like it. And I played Mass Effect 3's multiplayer a ton. So I don't know if I'll play this one a ton, but I've enjoyed what I've played so far. I'll probably kick it around every now and then. And then Apex HQ is the Mass Effect Andromeda app.
I didn't even pay attention. That was the Mass Effect app. I just saw Google play.google.com, play.google.com, play.google.com. It's like, Oh, odds are I'm not going to be interested in any of these for very long.
Yeah.
I don't keep interest in mobile games. I'm not
I
sure
had
if it's just I don't have the attention span for them or the lack thereof.
I had a pretty big mobile gaming week this past week, just because like it was still a pretty busy week. I was out and about a lot, and usually I've been a lot more tired, laying in bed or sitting on the couch more this past week. Got my phone out, playing games, going through trying stuff out, and I downloaded Apex HQ, which is like I said, the Mass Effect Andromeda app. It lets you manage your multiplayer character and manage your strike teams so that you can still get the in-game bonuses and stuff without actually having to be playing the game to send out the teams. So that's nice. I mean, basically that gives you an unlimited supply of research materials, which kind of fast tracks you through the long and tedious research trees for better weapons and gear.
You know, you're really not selling me on Mass Effect Andromeda.
So that's handy dandy. But I mean, it's not really a game. I just threw it in there because I was using it and it went with Mass Effect. This is probably the last time I'm going to talk about Mass Effect for a while, because I've now explored every aspect of the game, and it just comes down to beating the story and seeing like how it ends and how I felt about the whole journey. But I figured
the adventures of Ryder McDirtface.
My Ryder doesn't have a dirt face, but she has gorgeous blue hair.
Now, there's the curtain maps to drapes.
Yes.
And
then I played some other mobile games, and I don't know. I have this like blinding or overwhelming curiosity to just check out things that look like shit and see if they really are. So the first one is called Battle of Warships, which is literally a World of Warships clone.
You know, I really should let you loose in my Google or in my Steam library at some point if you're wearing some shit. I mean, I literally have shit.
It's terrible. It's just atrocious. If you have played World of Warships and you think it's really pay to win and grindy and microtransaction-y, Battle of Warships is even worse.
It pissed me off like World of Warships did with just suddenly dropping my FPS down to the low teens whenever I have torpedoes inbound.
Worse. It's terrible. I mean, I've got a really kick-ass smartphone, and it runs like hot garbage on my phone.
Before or after the phone starts to heat up from all the work it has to do?
Yes. So it's pretty bad. Don't get Battle of Warships. It's terrible. Then I tried Battle Warship Naval Empire, which sounds awful. I knew it sounded awful, but the picture was really cool, and I was like, you know what? The picture's really cool. Maybe it'll be an okay sort of Facebook-style ship game. And that's basically what it is. It's nothing special, and I almost didn't put it on the list, but then I remembered that every single character is using a famous actor or actress's name.
Oh boy.
So you have Emma Watson and Emma Stone and Channing Tatum as your captains and the logistics people. And I had a good chuckle at that for about 15 minutes and then went, this is just garbage. I'm going to uninstall it from my phone.
Wow, 15 minutes. You probably got more enjoyment out of that game than anyone else has ever played that.
Probably. And then I uninstalled it from my phone. But the last game is actually pretty good. It's called Bounzy, Bounzy. And it is a game that's... It's not exactly a tower defense, but it is like a sort of turn-based game. You do an action, and then all of the monsters advance forward one square. And you have to defend your side of the map. You've got like a shield, and if they deplete all of the energy from your shield, you lose. And it's got this really neat, very simple, but very neat mechanic. So you're a wizard, and you shoot spells, and your spells bounce off of everything.
Yeah, looking at the screenshots, I have Arkanoid?
Arkanoid.
Just seeing the how the the paddle at the bottom of the screen and with the wall of bricks at the top.
Maybe.
Now, that's just what I immediately thought of, but I doubt that you have to bounce your spell up and down. So.
Yeah, no, you just like shoot out your spells, And they travel in a straight line, and they just bounce off of everything that they hit until they make it, except for a few special spells, they just bounce around until they come back to the bottom of the screen and disappear. And it's actually surprisingly fun. I have spent probably 4 or 5 hours this week playing this game. It starts out super simple. You just shoot your spells, and the enemies are all really weak and easy. And then as you level up and progress, the enemies get tougher. You get special enemies, like there's enemies that have shields, so you can only hurt them by hitting them from behind. So, you've got to make sure you bounce your spells
so
up.
you're really excited about them.
Then you get, later on, you get special spells that have effects. Like in one of the screenshots, you can see the drill spell and the poison spell.
Oh, my.
And you have one that always is in the beginning and one that always is like the tail end, like the last spell that you shoot. And there's different ones. There's 6 different special spells, 3 for the lead spell and 3 for the tail spell. And they randomly alternate during the levels, which is interesting. And some of the spells are more useful against certain enemies, and some of them are, against some enemies compared to others. Even though it's a free-to-play game, it's got a pretty solid business model. There's not like 45,000 different types of currency. There's coins, and like these little things that are like talismans, and the talismans are the premium currency. But every single treasure chest you open, which you get one every level, gives you 5 talismans and roughly 1,000 coins. There's some variance on the coins, but I've never seen it lower than 800 and never seen it higher than like 1,200. So it's in a range. And also the chests have a chance to drop bonus spell attacks. So you start out, you shoot 10, not including the special spells that you unlock. And then as you go, you unlock more and more little spells. And I've got like 25 spells that I shoot out. They start out as fireballs, and as you like level up the spells, they just like change color and shape and stuff. So I don't really know what they are now. They're purple. But I've got like 20.
Of course they are.
I've got like 25 that I shoot out. So it's really simple. It's
maybe you
really
should
cute.
see a doctor about that,
It's really simple. It's really cute. It's really fun. I am surprised at how much I enjoyed this game. And it doesn't it doesn't do the thing where it's like with Clash of Clans or whatever, or not Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. Because if you can collect chests, but if you don't complete the level, then you don't get a key. So you can still get the chest for the level, but if you don't complete it, you don't get the key. But you can have an infinite number of chests piled up waiting to unlock, so you don't ever feel like you're losing anything. You can just keep playing. And every chest just takes 3 hours to open if you don't either spend the talismans to open chests or watch ads to open them. It's just 3 hours. So there's not like tiers of chests or any of that bullshit. It's just, here's your 2 currencies. You get this amount every time you open a chest. You can have as many chests in your backlog as you want. So even if you get stuck, as long as you can make it far enough in the level to get the chest, you can keep collecting the chests and they'll keep opening. So, I mean, that is grindy, but it's not like, I'm just waiting. Game. It's not like, I'm just waiting for this one item to drop so I complete the level. It's like, I collect the premium currency, I collect coins, and eventually I'll be able to level up my stuff and keep going. It's pretty quick. Most levels take like 2 or 3 minutes, which, it's a mobile game, so you can play a level while you poop.
Everybody talks about, playing mobile games, 2 or 3 minutes while they poop. Am I the only one that doesn't take that long?
To poop?
I don't like sitting there on the toilet because, eventually you just lose feeling in your legs,
I mean, sometimes I'll sit on the toilet for like 15 minutes. Even though I'm done pooping, I'll just sit there and read Reddit.
Maybe you should change your diet if you're sitting on the toilet for that long.
I do have some dietary issues because I'm lactose intolerant. But, no, usually
you need to probably not have that inside-out grilled cheese thing that we were talking about.
No. I mean, usually I'm good after like 3 or 4 minutes, but sometimes I'll sit there for 15 and just play games on my phone or browse Reddit. But, yeah, this is a good game. I really like it. It's really nice to find, every once in a while, a nice, well-thought-out, well-designed little mobile game. It makes me happy.
Yeah, only problem is, ironically enough, swimming through the sea of shit to find one.
Yep, that's why every once in a while I just go on these like benders and just, all right, let's do it. Let's download all the mobile games. And I'll download, 10 and play through them. And honestly, most of the time I round up just uninstalling all 10 of them, but every once in a while I find one, and I add it to my list of mobile games that I really like. And this is one of them. Bounzy. Bounzy. Great game. I'm probably going to buy some premium currency just to give him some money, because I really like the game. Oh, I forgot about the special spells, actually. Like the special abilities. You can spend talismans on to do special abilities, and then each ability does different stuff. But honestly, if you're decent, like if you're even halfway decent at using the spells themselves, like the normal ones that just shoot out, you'll never need them, because you'll get really good at getting ricochets and stuff to kill all the enemies.
Yeah, but to be fair, we all know that you're indecent.
I'm pretty good, actually. I very rarely lose.
Oh, no, we weren't talking about that.
Oh, right. The lack of pants and showering and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and also being a little too hairy, you know?
I am very hairy. So yeah, those are the games that I played this week. More Mass Effect, one good mobile game, and a couple of shitty ones.
Yeah, well, I ended up playing starting a simplistic ARPG to get the end of the story that I've done previously, and an unspeakably simple and disappointing town builder. So, hey, it was a high week on video gaming for the both of us.
Yeah. That's okay, though. It's okay. All right. Yeah, it is. Can't have the good times without the bad times. Otherwise, everything is just bland. All right. Anyways.
Speaking of having the good times without the bad.
Yeah, let's move on to our first topic this week, determining the value of games. So this one was submitted to us by Jimmy Jam, good old Jim3535. We were going to get to it last week, but we ran out of time. We spent much longer on Game Club than we anticipated, so we're doing it this week. So,
well, to be fair, Game Club was 2 games.
It was. So this is a question that I've seen talked about many times before, and it's I don't. There's not really an objective answer, because this is one of those things.
This is definitely, I think, going to end up to let's agree to disagree, because, well, I'm a cheapskate when it comes to games to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on like both sides of the fence with it over the course of the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, just as my life has changed, going from having no money and some time, and no money to no time, and some money and some, like, I've just been all over the place the last few years. So one of the most common sort of value propositions I've seen placed upon games is the $1 1 hour value proposition.
Which I really don't think that is completely fair, because then you get open world games that you could sink hundreds of hours into. Well, let's put it this way: if it's your game has to be 1 hour of game time or potential game time to $1, well, then Spore is the greatest. Well, Spore and No Man's Sky are the greatest value propositions in gaming.
Infinite replayability.
Yeah.
So I used to be a pretty big fan of the $1 1 hour, but the reason I was that was when I was in college and I had a decent chunk of free time but no money. So I was like, if I'm going to buy a game, I'm going to have to be able to squeeze out every single last minute of enjoyment from this game. And I'm going to buy Skyrim, and I'm going to play it for 50 million hours, and I'm going to buy I went through a big JRPG phase in college, and I always liked JRPGs, but one of the main reasons I played them so much was because, I could get them. They grind. So you spend 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 hours playing these games, and JRPGs in the States are very rarely full price. So it's like I'm spending $25, $30 bucks on this game that I'm going to play for 100 hours. Great value. And so I would play JRPGs nonstop because I could get so much value out of them. And going back, there's very few of those JRPGs that I'm like, yeah, I actually really enjoyed that game. Like, there's a couple. The Last Remnant, I know that you have had issues with that game, but I genuinely like The Last Remnant.
I was confused about what the hell was going on, but the gameplay just turned me off so much with The Last Remnant that it felt like I was more just rolling a dice to see if I was even able to attack, let alone win a battle.
Yeah.
And the fact that it seems like nobody understood what the fuck was going on with that game's combat system just was disappointing, because I actually liked the Final Fantasy series, which is the same developer. It's a Square game, The Last Remnant.
Yeah.
But it's the thing that what the hell is going on?
Yeah. But so I used to subscribe to that, and I think that works for a lot of people who game on a budget.
I think it works for some games, especially the experience games these days, which is mostly going into the VR area nowadays. Because the VR seems to really focus on these very intensive, short experiences.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, I don't think you want to have, most people at least, want to have a game where you spend 500 hours with a VR headset on. At least, for now. At least until you get that force feedback COD piece.
Yeah, well, I mean, VR headsets get hot and stuffy and uncomfortable after a couple of hours. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to play a game that's 100, 200 hours long.
Yeah, but on the flip side of things, looking at VR games and see this game has half an hour content. This game has an hour of content, and that's a selling point on on the store page. It's just one of those things that, this doesn't have a good value proposition for me, even if I had the VR headset, because it's under even the refund barrier, which I think the refund barrier is like your bare minimum these days, at least on Steam. It needs 2 hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a game developer that puts out something that has under 2 hours of pure gameplay is just asking to be just review bombed and refunded.
Yeah. What is your sort? I know that you say that you're a cheapskate, but is there a set of rules or guidelines that you go through where you evaluate the value of a game?
Well, mine is more just a general set of things. If it's an episodic game, it has to either be complete or show promise of being complete, because I have a few things that are episodic games that have 1 or 2 episodes out, and then they just drop development, or the developer just quit. It just shut down. And to me, those games are worthless, because you don't even get the full experience. Hell, there's one game that I have that looked very promising. I'm trying to remember if I got it in a bundle somewhere. I know I didn't get it as a review copy. I think it was a bundle. That is essentially a Harvest Moon game, but it's a heavy emphasis on the story. And just trying it out, it looked very, very promising and very interesting. And they moved it from being a early access game to an episodic game, and released the first part as an episode. And then the developer just pretty much disappeared.
Okay. Well, I see what you're saying, but that's not exactly the question I was asking.
Well, I was more setting a general set of rules.
Okay.
For what I consider worth it.
So you're not necessarily looking at price, because you're...
for some things. I mean, if something is a AAA price, it better be... give me something that's worth it. That's the thing, is that I don't want to play a 2-hour experience that's a $60 game,
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. What's the most you've paid for a game in, I don't know, the last couple of years?
Oh, I would say 30.
What did you spend $30 on?
That would be RimWorld. RimWorld, Factorio, which are both early access games, ironically enough. Then it's probably in the $20 range for a few things.
Okay.
But honestly, these days where I've got the backlog that's longer than most people's libraries, it's mostly just I've become almost what I term an oasis gamer, where I'll build up during a major sale during usually the winter and summer sales, and then pick up a couple things that are in deep discount or just big bundles in between, and that usually sustains me.
Yeah. So you're an interesting case then. You're
Well,
a bit of
that's one that you could say. I'm an interesting case.
interesting case. That's my tactfulness as a therapist coming out there.
Also known as complete nut job.
So, okay, then here's another question. What's it like, or does it ever feel odd to be in this place where you're like, well, hey, I have all the games in the world, metaphorically. I don't really buy very many games, and there aren't very many games that offer enough value to me to purchase anywhere near full price because I have...
It's definitely a weird feeling to look at the Steam front page and think, okay, there's maybe a couple things here that are interesting to me, but there would be no way that I would really be able to sink enough time into them to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because that's really the thing, is just, it's a mixture of the pure price and also the time. Because, games are an investment, not just monetarily, but, time-wise as well. I'm just looking at the front page of Steam, and, like Slime Rancher came out today. I left early access. And yes, it's on my wish list, but the thing is that would I be able to play enough time with Slime Rancher, even though it is, it's on the cheaper side to begin with, to warrant picking it up right now? And the answer is probably not.
Yeah.
It's a weird position I'm in.
I'm also in a bit of a weird position, but I have much more in common with the sort of, I don't know, average or standard, like, I work... a full-time job, so I have income and I have games I would like to play, but I don't have enough time to play all the games I would like to play. And I've got a library with like 500 games in it now. Is that how many games in my library? No, 600 games. Obviously not as big as yours, but bigger than the average person. And I've bought most of my games over the years.
Even though my library is absolutely huge, I would say still over half is what I bought. I mean, that's still, a massive amount. But all that's also, mostly due to bundles as well, because that's the thing, is that, and that really ties into the value proposition, is where do you go with bundles? Because that's a whole another kettle of fish.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get to that in a second. Let me kind of... So currently my sort of value proposition is basically I just don't want to waste my time. I don't care how much money...
I'm sorry, but with you saying that...
I don't care how much money I spend at this point anymore. Like, I spent like $150 on the Steam sale, last month, and only walked away with like 15 or so games, which, even a year ago, I would be going like, what are you doing? You could get so many more games for $150. But I've hit this tipping point where now I don't care if I spend more money. I just want games that I'm going to enjoy. I don't want to waste my time playing something that is not fun. And, I know what you're saying. I have a reputation on the show for playing weird, shitty, like, guilty pleasure games all the time. But
gee, it's not like your entire games you played this week was shitty games. Well,
but
minus Mass Effect, but that's more choice on some people.
But I mean, I enjoy that sort of thing. I'm not going, well, I might enjoy this weird dating sim, but since I'm only gonna really get like 2 hours out of it, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy this other game instead, where I can get 100 hours out of it.
Yeah, well, most of what I bought in the last Steam sale was either for the game club or YouTube stuff. I didn't actually buy a lot for myself, which is kind of also a weird position that kind of takes at least me out of it, is where, yeah, I'm also considering, okay, what'd be fun to play on YouTube? Granted, since I'm pretty far behind the curve on most of the stuff I play to begin with, maybe I shouldn't consider YouTube overall because, yeah, I'm playing Van Helsing, 2-3 years out of date?
Yeah.
Let me actually see when that released, because that will be an interesting thing. When did Van Helsing 3 release? Click off all the things. 2015. So, yeah, it's one of those things that most of what I play is at least a year out of date, if not more, not counting early access stuff or stuff for the Sunday Sampler, which is either review code or just, oddball stuff to begin with. So it's a weird position I'm in to begin with, which maybe makes, my opinion completely worthless.
I don't think it makes it worthless. It may be less helpful to someone who's in a more sort of standard position, but I think it's provides a different perspective that, gives people sort of a different outlook on it.
Yeah, and also a lot of my value proposition is also more of a genre to genre thing. Like, if it's a very, very short point click, for example, I'm not as willing to spend $15 or $20 compared to something like a dating sim or visual novel where it's going to have a lot better writing, most likely.
Yeah. Is there any amount of money that you consider to be too much? Like, I've always kind of had this rule of the $5 impulse buy. Like, I'll buy anything that looks neat or interesting just to give it a try for $5, but I guess that's not really what I'm asking, though.
That's the inverse. I would say my impulse buy would be in the $5 to $10 range. It really depends on what the game is, and because I picked up Brick Rigs, for example. That was slightly out of the impulse buy area, but it was something that looked interesting.
Yeah. What's the most you would spend on a game, period?
I would go full price AAA.
So $60.
Yeah, and that's pushing it for most things these days, because I usually don't buy AAA right out the gate anyway.
Yeah.
But that's the hard line. Usually it's more the $30 to $40 range.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't. Let's see.
And I'm using extremes there. 30 to 40 is probably more likely my area, but 60 is right now the hard line. And the thing is that gaming is going to have to eventually go past the $60 price tag for the AAAs. Yeah. I mean, we're already seeing it with DLC, which that's something else. Is where does DLC fall into this?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I have a maximum that I would spend on a game anymore. Used to, it was like $50 or $60, to spend on games at a time. And I would either I really want this new release, or I'll buy a few used games, or when I got into PC gaming, I'll buy a few games on the Steam sale. That was all I would spend a year, $60 to $100 a year. But at this point, I don't think I have a maximum. If a game came out, and like you said, the price of games is going to go up. It's a combination of both inflation making them cost more, and also as games continue to... I don't know how games don't cost more than $60 now.
I think it's just consumer outcry, because it kind of settled into the $60 range, I would say, in the 90s. Because before that, the NES era, not even accounting for inflation, games were more expensive.
Yeah.
But they kind of settled into the $60 price tag. And nobody really wanted to break it. And it's kind of everybody standing in lockstep, not wanting to be the first to step out of line because they're going to get just yelled at. So they're trying to come up with all these ways that, yes, it is $60, but to get the full experience, you need the DLC map packs. You need to get the extra character classes that are also separate DLCs. You need to get all the little story DLCs. So games do cost more than $60 right now. It's all the little hidden fees that kind of add up. Then you get, the special editions, which are also, more expensive, but they give you something else that people see as an extra value. So yes, it is worth more than 60, but is it?
Yeah.
And that's also something else, is that I would love to see special editions and, collector's editions have the extra stuff sold separately instead of, because, most of the time whenever you see these collector's editions and special editions, it's always pre-order stuff. And that's, breaking commandment number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a, or the special edition or whatever it is for Andromeda has like a multiplayer starter pack and some clothes, and it's another like $20. It's like, why would I buy? Although you can buy that separately if you want to. I think it's only $10 actually if you buy it separately.
Also, it's a sucker tax.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that usually these pre-order bonuses, if they become available, they are not available till way, 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 way down the line, or until the Game of the Year edition, if they become available at all.
Yeah. I want to pivot to the value of gaming more generally, if you don't have anything else you want to talk about, and sort of our personal value, the way that we look at buying games sort of topic.
Well, like I said, my problem is that I just look at games as, how does this fit into the backlog? And I think that's going to be a problem for more people than you may give credit to, just because gaming on PC does get very cheap very quickly if you know where to look. Yeah.
Well, that was part of the sort of overall value proposition of gaming as a hobby that I was about to get to.
Well, do we want to throw in bundles before we go into that? Or, because that's something else.
If you think that that's wholly separate, we can go ahead and hit that.
That does fit completely separately, just because of how, especially Humble Bundle. That's the big one these days. Unless you want to count the card farms from, was it Bundle Stars that does it?
Yeah, Bundle Stars has had 2 in the last 3 months.
I think they've had more than that. It's just I know of 3 they've done.
Oh, I've seen 2. I got 50 games 3 months ago, and then last month they did another one that was 25 games that I bought.
Yeah, and none of them are worth the ones and zeros they're made out of.
No, they're terrible games, but I bought them for trading card farming.
Which is something else that's kind of offsetting all the price of games to begin with. All the trading cards.
Yeah, I spent $2 on 75 games, and I'll get probably $8-ish, $6 to $8 in trading cards.
But I think Humble Bundle's really the only major site going on right now. I know there is Groupies, but I'm not sure if they're offering anything worthwhile. Used to be Indie Royale was pretty good, but they went bankrupt with Desura. It was the same parent company. But just buying 15 games for just a couple of bucks on Humble Bundle really devalues a lot of these games. And there was there's been a couple interesting articles over the years of just different developers talking about how their sales are affected afterwards, that they get a huge spike, but they never see a rebound. That maybe I should have dug up, but here's a good example. The Humble Saints Row bundle. $1 to get Risen 3, Deadlight Director's Cut, Homeland, and Saints Row 2. I mean, where does that put the value of these games? Yeah. Assuming you don't own any of them to begin with.
Right.
It's
I don't have an answer specifically to that question. Like, you know, where do you put the value of those games? I mean, for my example out of that is Saints Row 2. Like, that game's several years old at this point. Is that just
well, none of these are particularly new.
No, I guess not. I'm the most familiar with Saints Row 2 out of that list. And I mean, it's a game that you could get 100 hours out of pretty easily. Getting it for $1, you know.
Yeah, this is probably not the greatest example, just because this bundle is mostly Saints Row. Oh, Mighty Number 9 is already on a Humble Bundle. I didn't even pay attention to that. Oh, that's something else that we could really talk about at some point. Kickstarter games.
Yeah.
But bundles really make gaming very cheap, and I think it may skew the overall price of gaming for a lot of people, particularly people who are just getting into the hobby, or people that want to expand their libraries. People that, someone that hasn't played Saints Row, people to get all the games in the series for $15, and that is, well, all the games except for Saints Row 1, ironically enough, along with a few extras along the way. That's a hell of a buy. But then it comes back to, you know, what does that make the value of those particular games to someone that is getting the mass group of them?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there is a psychological aspect of, if you pay more for something, you're more likely to spend more time on it, spend more time with it, and want to get more out of it. It's a combination of...
yeah, that is something I've noticed is I get games as a review copy, and, you know, I'll toy around with them and get my video out, but then I don't really have that attachment to them that I would have if I, you know, bought the game for $10-15.
Yeah. It's a combination of confirmation bias and
sunk cost.
Sunk cost. Yeah.
Hey, I know terms.
Yeah, and it's it's been researched and it's observable and repeatable, and it doesn't matter if someone spends money or has money invested into them. Those two things happen. It's like, oh, this is, you know, costing me or is valued at X amount of dollars, so I should definitely enjoy it more than this thing that was valued at Y amount of dollars that's less. It's pretty neat.
Do you think that's where part of the pre-order culture has come from, where you see buy this game now and we'll knock off $5, knock off $10, and get people more invested in a release that's upcoming, on top of the hype culture around gaming in general?
Yeah, that's the sunk cost. It's like, well, you know, if I pre-order this game, I'm going to be in it this much, but I'll save, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't pay
I'll
attention
get
to
this extra thing.
The Saints Row pack also has the upcoming Agents of Mayhem as a $75 tier. Wow. Huh.
Wow. Okay, so where I wanted to pivot the discussion is now that get away from the personal stuff a little bit and just talk about the value of gaming as a hobby. I think that gaming is probably one of the cheapest hobbies out there. Like, individual games, if you buy brand new all the time, yes, are expensive. But compared to, like, say, a movie ticket, you know, you spend $15 on a movie ticket, and if you want to get popcorn and other stuff, you're going to spend more. But let's just say you go to the movie, you spend you go to a matinee, you're a smart moviegoer. You go to a matinee, you spend $10 on your ticket.
Obviously, you're not watching the Emoji Movie then.
Definitely not. You spend $10 on your movie ticket. You know, you get 2 hours out of it. And, you know, that's not like you've chosen to spend your money that way. I'm not saying that people waste their money doing that. But, you know, you spend $60, go see 6 movies, get 10 hours out of it. Well, that's a short video game. You spend $60 on some quite a few larger video games, anything story based, particularly anything open world, suddenly you've double or tripled the effectiveness of the money that you spent in terms of providing leisure time. And yes, gaming is.
I was going to use the analogy of building a home theater versus building a computer, because both of them have a big upfront cost, and that's where gaming's cost really lies. Is that even if you're a console gamer that has a lower buy-in, it still has a several $100 buy-in to it,
right?
And that's where the how gaming as a hobby is perceived to be very expensive by the general public. They'll see people the general public's probably not browsing PC Master Race, but they see people talking about multi-$1,000 rigs, or seeing these huge 40-some inch monitors that are 144 hertz. It costs as much as a small car.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've explained that to people before in my own personal life. My mom, for example, has asked me a couple times, like, you spend so much money, like, on your computer and stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, but, let's talk about what your hobbies are. You do gardening, and you've got also your small animal farm and stuff. And it's like, you had to spend, all this money on...
She's Orwell?
I was like, you spent like $400 on that really nice tiller that you're going to have for a few years, and, on the mower, and, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, I mean, you don't have to do these things. You do them because you find them enjoyable. It's like, it's the same thing. I have this upfront cost, and then there's the other things that you buy along the way, which are games. And I made this whole big analogy for her, and she was like, okay. And that was several years ago before I got her gaming herself.
Well, the other thing is that people are looking at the high-end stuff, the equivalent of a Ferrari, when people don't always need that. Their little economy class compact will handle what they may be interested in. They don't need the top-of-the-line, cutting-edge, lightning-fast rigs. They can get by with, the couple $100, low end, or I should say mid range these days, because gaming hardware has come down in general price as well. Not counting the spike in price around RAM right now, but that's beside the point. But the general cost of computing parts is overall down as well.
Yeah,
so
and
you do get a lot bigger bang for the buck to begin with.
And I mean, that's going to continue to happen probably forever. Comparing the price to the cost. I mean, not that like the equivalent, not that like you could go out and buy the equivalent of like a 480 right now for $1. Like, that's not what I mean. But
I would buy that for $1.
I'd buy that for $1. Yeah. But just computing power goes up, prices go down. That just is the nature of it. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're a console gamer, you've probably got an upfront cost of $500-$600.
Are we counting building your theater as well, or getting a TV? Because that's one thing that always kind of bugged me, is that people talk about how consoles are so much cheaper, and when they quote the price of a PC, they always include the monitor and keyboard. Always.
Yeah.
That's something that just drives me absolutely batshit insane. Do you include the price of the TV and everything else, your home theater system? No. Sorry.
No.
Slight tangent there.
I was not including a TV in that. I think that there's only there aren't very many homes per capita in the United States that don't have TVs. Most houses have multiple TVs, or most households have multiple TVs in their home. So, I mean, I wasn't including that. But, you spend $600 up front, you get your console, a couple of games, anything that they upsell you on, because you're a peasant buying a console, so you'll buy anything.
Don't
mean.
forget to spend the $120 on the Elite controller.
That was mean. I shouldn't have said that. The Elite controller is pretty cool, I have to say. Like, I don't own one, but I've messed around with one.
I was
They're really
interested
nice.
in it for until they announced the price tag, and it's like, no.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's that whole upper end thing, like the standard consoles are like the Xbox PS4 like branded controllers or your mid range. The Mad Cats and Pelican is like your cheap shit, and then
no longer Mad Cats.
well, yeah, but that was the first thing that came to mind. I mean,
Hey, I've had a couple decent Mad Cats controllers over the years.
I've had
And
a couple
I've also
of good ones too, but
also I've had some real shit ones. Mad Cats actually did pretty well on their fight sticks for quite a while.
yeah. But anyways, and then your entry level cost for PC gaming is a pretty big range. But I'm gonna guess if you want to get like a decent rig, you're gonna spend $1,000 on a machine. More if you want to go mobile with a laptop. Less if you've got some stuff already, and you're doing sort of a custom upgrade to a desktop you have.
That's the problem, is that your initial cost does have to include the monitor with a PC if you're starting from complete scratch. But that's where the disconnect comes from, is that whenever you talk about upgrading, people talk about upgrading the monitor as well, which doesn't count usually, unless you're upgrading from like a 60 hertz to a 120.
Yeah, but you spend maybe, I don't know, $1,000 to $1,500 in your first year on gaming, but then after that, your console is going to last for several years. Your gaming PC, as long as nothing breaks, is going to last for 5-6 years as well.
Well, also the thing is that if you play online, the PC does save you a fair amount of money, just because the console requires $60 a year, or now they've increased it in Europe for PlayStation Plus, just for online connectivity.
Yeah.
So that cuts into the savings on the console side of things.
But also, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of other hobbies, like going to the movies, you have to pay for gas, you have to pay for wear and tear on your car if you have a car, public transportation if you don't.
You have to pay for therapy after watching some of this shit that comes out.
The point is, I think gaming is one of the most sort of, if you're just looking at it from how can I get the most enjoyment out of my dollars, I think gaming is one of the top, if not the top, in terms of dollar per enjoyment ratio. It does have a little bit higher upfront cost than most hobbies, but over the course of the life of the hobby, you will save in the long run.
Yeah, the only thing is that I don't think, well, at least I hope not, is that people judge their interest purely on how much time I could get out of this $1.
Right.
Because there's other factors to include in that. And I think if someone is interested in movies versus video games, for example, they look at things like story. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of story in video games doesn't quite cut the mustard. A lot of it is more about the interactivity. Now, you start to get some possible exceptions with that, with the visual novel genre particularly, but I don't think that story really is there for video games quite yet, at least for the most part.
I disagree. I think it's there, and games have gotten pretty good at telling the sort of stories that we see in books and TV shows and movies, that sort of thing. And then we've got some very special, unique cases that just can't exist in other mediums, like Brothers. I mean, that's the example to go to for, like, it's got a great story anyways, but then it's got, the moments in the game where the fact that you're doing the actions.
Well, I think Brothers is an outlier more that it tells its, or at least the end of the story, through its game mechanics, and you don't really have any other games that I can think of off the top of my head, at least, that does it quite to that degree.
Yeah.
But that's also telling a very unique story through something I don't think you could even get if you were watching the gameplay.
No, you definitely couldn't.
That's definitely a first-person experience, and something that it's kind of a weird thing that in the era of everyone's trying to get Twitch integration in their games and getting YouTube integration, trying to get people to stream their games, that you have a game like Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons where there is no way to really show the impact of that one moment.
Right. I think another big value add to games is going off of the interactivity. In movies, TV shows, books, you have your perspective controlled. And something as simple as being able to move the camera and look at stuff opens up a whole new level of appreciation, I think, for the art that is entertainment. One of my favorite gaming memories is playing Oblivion for the first time, and you come out of the sewer and you're walking around and you wind up on this hill and you can look down, and I mean, like, looking at it now, it's nowhere near as pretty as I remember it.
Yeah.
But like, that moment was gorgeous, and you just like look around and you take it in, and you can't do that with films.
Well, to top it off, that same moment for me, I had a wolf attack me. I killed it in 1 or 2 shots, and it just cartwheeled down the hill.
Yeah, but I think that there's huge value in gaming, both as a dollar per enjoyment ratio, and it gives you a lot of things that you can't get from other means of entertainment.
Yeah, I think my argument with story is that gaming story is built more on mechanics than actual words most of the time, and that's what I was trying to say, is that someone that's looking at games versus movies is looking at more of a passive existence. Right.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
And it's kind of missing the point of gaming.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me than what you said.
I wasn't really articulating my point all that well, but kind of got off topic to begin with. So there you go.
Yeah, fair enough. So, do you have anything else you want to add? I feel like we got personal for a little bit here. we snuggled real close, and then we talked more broadly. I mean, I feel
dirty.
We love games and we're passionate about them, and they're certainly my favorite hobby and means of entertainment in my life. So
yeah, even though I talk bad about games a lot of times, it's more the fact that it annoys me about things that really shouldn't be in gaming anymore, or things that I see as kind of wrong,
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, you're hard on games because you love them, and I just love them.
No, you're easy. That's what you are.
You're hard on games because you love them. I'm hard on games because I love them. Wink.
I need an adult.
This is a good topic. Good submission, Jim. I love talking about games. A long time ago, when I used to do like blog posts and stuff, I did a whole article comparing like the dollar per hour ratio of video games versus movies and books and music and sports.
Yeah, well, there is a problem with the dollar per hour to begin with. Is let's use Skyrim as an example, even though it's absolutely a terrible example for me.
Love Skyrim.
It's let's say 100 hours. All right. Do you think that's a fair thing for someone that wants to do a good chunk of the game? Not everything, and obviously not everything with modding, but it comes down to, okay, I played the game for 100 hours, but how many hours did I enjoy the game, and not just filler content? And that's where also dollar per hour really breaks down and doesn't really hold up.
Well, your 100-hour argument in Skyrim, though, I mean,
I'm using that as more of a ballpark, more of a nice round number.
Yes, but if you like Skyrim, which I know you have a lot of issues with the mechanics and stuff of Skyrim, but if you're someone who likes it, 100 hours is about the entire main story and all of the major side quests. Like the guilds and things like that. So probably I would assume most people would enjoy most of that as long as they like Skyrim in general. Skyrim's a big game, y'all.
Yeah, on the flip side of things, let's use Euro Truck, a game I've been playing as kind of just filler, just podcasting stuff, and it's more of just something to do to kind of as I'm waking up, drinking my coffee, or waiting for something else to happen. Playing it while I'm doing an upload or something, and it's one of those weird things. Yes, I enjoy it, but at the same time, I can't really put $1 to hour because it's filler content.
Yeah, that's what like Transport Fever is to me at this point. Like if I want to just like sit down and listen to a bunch of podcasts, like catch up or whatever, I'll put on Transport Fever because I can basically passively run through that whole game and it doesn't detract from my ability to listen to a podcast. So like I'm enjoying my time, but it's not necessarily because I'm playing Transport Fever. So
yeah, and that's another kind of weird thing that really only gaming has. Well, I guess maybe if you put like a TV show on the background, but that's you could do that with music as well, just background noise.
Yeah,
it's kind of an odd thing, huh?
Games are great. They fill all the niches.
Well, that's the thing, is that gaming is a medium and not a genre.
That's true. That is very true.
It's the same argument I make with anime. People talk about, well, I don't like anime. Well, anime is a medium. It's not a genre. Unless you absolutely hate the anime art style, and even then, you have to say more, I don't like animation.
Yeah.
Because not everything is magical moe girls in high school with giant eyes.
Yeah, but those are my favorite anime. Because I'm a filthy casual. Oh.
Peasant. You're an anime peasant.
I'm just the worst. I know.
I'm just gonna have to get you to watch another anime. But we still need to do anime night at some point with us.
I love my high school battle magical witch girls. I love it.
With or without tits?
Yes. Okay. I think we have thoroughly covered this topic. Like I said a minute ago, good topic, Jim.
Yeah, and let us know what you think.
Indeed, please. So, now that we've done that, and it looks like it went a little bit longer than I thought, so yay for good discussion.
Yeah, we definitely went long there.
Let's move on to our next general topic, which is going to be a recurring topic at some point. Probably, maybe if we come up with a list, just be good filler if we really need to make up some time. And it's a slow week. But pitch a game. So, we've each come up with ideas about games. Well, I think you said you only had one. And then
the thing is, I had an idea, and then I was really thinking, and it kind of let my mind wander, and I came up with one that I liked better.
Okay. But, so yeah, we're each going to pitch a game and just sort of describe it, and then the other person, might get some good back and forth, ask some questions, make some suggestions. And who knows, any game execs out there listening, if you want one of these game ideas, just let us know. All right.
Our licensing fees are cheap.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Well,
choo-choo.
That's not my game, by the way.
The train's going to go first. So anyways, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Well, how enthusiastic are you about your idea?
I'm feeling pretty enthusiastic about it.
Okay, we'll break conventions and let you go first.
Okay, so here's my idea.
Right.
So I love KSP. I love the mostly realistic orbital mechanics. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's probably the most realistic space game I've ever seen in terms of orbital mechanics. So I want that in a game that you're playing like the equivalent of a SpaceX, like you're a private space company. You start in the late 20th, early 21st century, and your goal is to build a successful space company and eventually colonize the solar system. And it's going to be like 99.9% reality. The only sort of sci-fi-esque thing that I want to be in this game is that at some point you can research a torch drive. So you're starting out.
You may have to say what a torch drive is.
Right, a torch drive is basically a method of propulsion for ships, spaceships, that allows you to just burn continuously 50% of the way through your journey, and then flip your ship around and burn prograde for 50% of your journey, and then flip around and burn retrograde for the other 50%. And it allows you to take, the equivalent of straight lines in space. You can't really do that, but as close as you can
that
get.
attitude.
And the most proposed ideas for them use some form of nuclear fusion generation or nuclear fusion reactor, and then you vent plasma to create propulsion in space. That's sort of the rough ideas that exist for them today. So they're a real concept. They just don't exist because we don't have...
Well, it's not the same idea, but I'm trying to think of the name of the drive where it's essentially nuclear weapons with the shockwave hitting against a blast plate.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of it.
It's not the same idea, but it allows you to get a lot of acceleration very quickly because, it's riding a shockwave.
Yeah.
Which I realize, shockwaves in space, it's not going to be the same as, doing something like that in our atmosphere, but, they're still there.
Right. But so the progression for my game is like, late 20th century, early 21st century, you're doing things like SpaceX is doing now, supplying the International Space Station and launching satellites and researching tech. And
so
then...
this is basically a larger version of what Stable Orbit is. Remember I talked about that game, just after the summer sale, where it's a realistic space station simulator.
Somewhat, but I want this game to be focused a lot more on the business aspect. So it starts out pretty concentrated, but later on in the game, you're colonizing the moon, and because you're a private company, how do you make that profitable? Can you do mining? Can you do research? As your technology improves and you get closer to that torch drive, you're pushing out towards Mars, towards the asteroid belt. And then eventually, these other private companies will exist, and they're trying to do the same thing, and you're trying to beat them out and win the government contracts and things like that. And in my head, I'm thinking eventually you could do things like colonize planets yourself, or create asteroid bases, hollow out an asteroid or something, or find one that's spinning and be able to use it for artificial gravity. Or
launching an asteroid at your your opponents and putting them out of business the hard way.
Yeah. And I don't want this game to have any combat. I don't want this game to have any of that.
Wait, what about mining lasers?
Well, yeah, but not for combat. For mining
rocks. You're attacking the rock. And I attack the rock.
Yeah, fair enough. But, you're setting up trade routes and focusing on R&D, and I got so excited. I was sitting in a meeting, and that idea popped into my head, and I, started taking notes, and
and your boss was like, wow, you're enthusiastic about this meeting.
Actually, yeah. My boss was like, wow, Jared, it's you're on point today. And I was like, yeah, totally. Absolutely. And I'm like, writing down SpaceX, torch drive, trade mechanics, setting up routes. And and I'm combining, I like the way that Transport Fever does it, where you set up routes and it tells you how much time the route is going to take, and the game sort of calculates okay, this percentage of people or things is going to use this route because it's this level of efficiency on your time and the size of vehicle and stuff like that. So I just take Transport Fever and smush it up to the space mechanics of Kerbal Space Program, and then set it in the real world, and that's what I want. That's my game pitch.
Oh, well, it's kind of funny. I have a business sim as well. And by the way, we did not elaborate on this. So.
No, we didn't talk about it at all, except, hey, did you get a game? Okay, sweet, we can do that.
But mine is taking a different direction.
Okay.
I was listening to my podcast today, and I had one idea, and I was listening to my podcast and thought, what I want is kind of a combination of detective game with a business sim on top of it, where as you're doing your detective work and doing your cases, you also have to manage your agency. And where I came up with this was the idea of the broke detective from old time radio, the Pat Novaks, for example, where it's someone down on his luck, trying to make ends meet, and just trying to get his job done. And it really appealed to me, and it also kind of really feels a niche that isn't there, because I started looking around thinking, okay, how many detective games are really out there?
There can't be. There's not very many,
No. Then I took it one step further. How many detective games are out there where you're not playing a police detective? And I came up with Batman and Sherlock Holmes for the most part.
I mean, technically, Sherlock Holmes, he works with the police.
But that's not all the time. That's the thing, is that yes, you do have other games where you're not a policeman, but they are a rarity, like the Blackwell series. But that's kind of a weird one to begin with. And also, the thing is that when you're a private detective, you don't have that force of law behind you, and it makes it where you're the underdog a lot more than if you're a police detective. Even someone like Max Payne, who is well, I know it's a bad example of detective, but he is still a police officer. So he has that training, he has that knowledge as well. So
yeah,
having someone outside that idea of law enforcement, of trying to figure out what's going on, and have it where you're also trying to manage your agency. So you have to manage any wounds you take during your cases, have to pay the bills, have to put your name out there. But the thing is that the flip side of that is that one of my opinions, probably a little bit of a controversial opinion, is that Sherlock Holmes is kind of a bad detective in the fact that everybody knows Sherlock Holmes. Once you become a household name, unless you are a master of disguise like Sherlock Holmes, you're not going to be as effective. One of the radio shows I listened to, in the fictional universe of that show, there's the show within the show. So everybody knows this detective by name. So he's not quite as effective at times. At other times it works in his favor. So, if you put yourself out there too much, people may know you, and that changes how they act. And it's not just, you do your case and it's off the screen. It's an additional aspect. Maybe point and click, perhaps. That's something that didn't really quite work out, or something more 3D like LA Noire. But have it where you have to balance things. And my idea also included, maybe, this is going to be a dirty word or a dirty phrase, procedural generation of the cases for general cases, but have an overarching theme or overarching story where there's an aspect of the case where maybe it's a reoccurring character, maybe it's a reoccurring theme, to tell a more overarching story on the criminal side of things. So, what do you think?
I like your pitch. Yeah, I like detective games. I've played several, but I don't think I've ever honestly, I don't think I've ever played a detective game where that you're not a police detective.
Unless you're playing a Sherlock Holmes game or Batman.
Yeah. So
and that's really... another thing is that Sherlock Holmes has to be written a very particular way, and that it's something that doesn't really translate very well to gaming unless you do the kind of almost cheesy now detective vision, because the way Sherlock Holmes operates is that he's able to piece together very, very obscure pieces of knowledge. The fact that he knows the shape of punch cards or punch holes on a train line, for example, and able to say, oh, you came from this particular train station because they're using a oval shape hole punch on their train tickets. Or he knows the type of ash from cigars, or has all the different types of mud around London. Very highly, highly specialized pieces of knowledge that doesn't translate at all to good game mechanics without a cheesy detective vision. And it's something that's very difficult to do otherwise.
Yeah.
Unless you make it Sherlock Holmes in name only, which is another problem with the Sherlock Holmes games.
Yeah. Yeah, I like your pitch.
You want to play it now, don't you?
I want to play your game. I also want to play my game. I like my pitch too.
But I like the idea of sort of having to manage things as well, where particularly I imagine at the beginning of the game it would be a lot tougher, where you're kind of in the ghetto and trying to make ends meet, where if you are too gun happy, for example, you may spend way too much on your ammunition, or you have to get yourself doctored up a lot more if you get in too many fights, and that causes you to miss cases. Or the fact that you may be a little bit too low key for some missions to show up may cut out a piece of the story. It has a very interesting way to tell story. And it also comes from the fact that some of these old-time detectives, the way that they handled story and the way they handled just the variety of cases that a person can, a particular detective can handle, was really interesting. One of my favorites is Johnny Dollar, and he's an insurance investigator, which sounds like the world's most boring job, but because he works with different agencies, he has a lot of different possibility of cases. Everything from arson to murder to very mundane, just, helping finding a missing person.
Yeah.
And it's just that variety that also makes for possibly interesting stories and gameplay. But it all comes down to really game mechanics and how it handles.
Yeah.
Or how it works as a game. And that's probably why you don't see a lot of detective games, is that it's very hard to do a good mystery without, figuring out a lot of mechanics that just haven't really been developed all that well.
Yeah, and also an issue with detective games is even if you do design a great mystery, once someone does it one time, you can only play it once.
Which may be where a potential for good procedural generation comes into play. Granted, I'm not sure if it's there yet, and that's also a chicken and egg thing, where procedural generation is mostly used as a cheap way to do a lot of landscape and very easy cookie cutter quests. There's nothing that's very, very deep in procedural generation yet.
Yeah.
Which maybe down the line it could be broadened out to the point where an entire mystery it could be built around procedural generation. This is something that I wouldn't want to see come out tomorrow without a lot of hard work put into it.
No, definitely not. Cool. Well, this was good. I think we both had two really good pitches.
I think it's hilarious that we both came up with at least some sort of business management.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do have some overlap in the games that we like, and that's one of the areas where we have some overlap, management style stuff. So That's great. I mean, I did also come up with two others, but I'm gonna hold off on those. I put them on a list, so that next time we do this.
Yeah, my original idea wasn't nearly as well cooked as my detective game, or detective agency game, I guess. And that's something else that could be an aspect of it is expanding the agency to more than one detective. And, having managing that as well.
Yeah. Coolio. Okay, well, let's move on to our next topic then, which is hidden gems.
So, from games we want to exist to games we want to people to play.
Yeah. Yeah, hidden gems is also going to be a recurring one because both of us have several. But we're just going to pick one to talk about this week.
Well, technically, I'm not picking just one.
Well,
I'm gonna put need to there, just so it's on the list or on our show notes to be able to put into show notes later.
Oh yeah, I can do that too.
Well, I already put mine in.
Yeah, I see yours.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny what I picked, considering what I just got done talking about.
Yeah, I'm torn between two. I don't know which one to pick.
Well,
you talk and I'll think about it.
Well, mine is a Telltale game that, hey, it's not completely a point-and-click game, which is strange for Telltale, but it's also an older game before they started turning into a licensing deal. It's Puzzle Agent, or I guess Puzzle Agent 1 and 2. Just throw them both together because it is a continuous story. This is a point-and-click / puzzle game about a town in Minnesota that's having some weird shit going on. And a lot of it is built around just various puzzles. And it's a very tough game to talk about without spoiling things because it is a lot more story heavy than what you may think. And I don't want to give too much away. It's a very surreal game. You play as Nathan Tether. Sorry, I had to get the surname correct. And he is a puzzle researcher in the U.S. Department of Puzzle Research. Yes, there is a government agency for everything. And he's sent to this town in Minnesota to figure out why a eraser factory that supplies erasers to the White House is shut down. And that's the start of the story, and things get even weirder from there. And you're going around solving a lot of puzzles, and most of them are fairly logical. You do get some that require some specialized knowledge, but nothing that is too outrageous, or at least nothing that is required to progress through the game. There are some that require a little bit of, probably the worst one that I could think of off the top of my head is the one that you have to figure out how these items in a shop window are positioned, and it's based on the photo negative of that window. And these days, that is kind of specialized knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's also an optional puzzle. So it's one of those things that, yes, it is specialized, but you don't need it to get through the story. And there are 2 games in the series, and I do wish Telltale would make a third, but let's be perfectly honest, they're not gonna make a third because, it's not a license. Which is very, very frustrating. I kind of wish Telltale didn't just turn into a licensing mill. Oh, and this is also has the art of Graham Abel. It's not someone I know off the top of my head, but it's supposedly a well-known artist or well-known indie comic artist, and yeah.
All right. Cool. I've got it marked as not interested on my on my Steam page, but
it is fairly short, and the thing is that also It doesn't have a lot of replay value because the only thing that you could really do is go back through and improve your score. It plays out that the more time you take on a puzzle, the more government dollars you use, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars. Just kind of making fun of government blood to begin with.
That's funny.
But the fact that a department of puzzle research for the U.S. government to begin with. It does have a very surreal sense of humor. A lot of people compare it to Twin Peaks, which we've had that kind of oddball sense of surreal environment with something like Alan Wake. This is that sort of idea, only a more comedic take on it.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Well,
and it is also very cheap. It's a $5 game normally, at least the first one.
Yeah.
Which the second one is a $10 game, so you could probably grab both of them, for like $7 or $8 on a Steam sale.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I
for
moved
puzzle
it.
fans, it's worth it.
I moved it from not interested to on my wish list. It didn't look very good in the pictures, but hearing you talk about it has, I think, sold me on the concept of the game.
Well, the thing is that it has a very limited animation. But it's one of those things that you're not playing it for the animation. You're playing it for the puzzles and the bit of the story and how strange it is.
Right. Well, I like strange. Cool.
Yeah, you hang out with me.
Yeah. All right, so I eventually settled on my game, Bound by Flame. So Bound by Flame is an RPG that came out a few years ago, in 2014, and didn't really know what it wanted to be. In some ways, it's heavily inspired by Dark Souls. It's got very difficult, punishing combat that, for the most part, feels fair. Some areas the difficulty spikes or something like that, but for the most part, the combat feels fair. But then it tries to do the whole sort of Dragon Age style of morality and choices and open world, and there's a whole lot of side quests and not a whole lot of direction, but the game has got a sense of charm. It's gorgeous. I got it as a review copy, again, years ago when I was doing reviews for Left Stick Down, and the game is gorgeous, and that was one of the things that I pointed out in my review, like how beautiful it was and how well it ran even on limited hardware, because at the time I didn't have a very great gaming PC. Just kind of I was running my rig with my GTX 750 Ti at that point. But the game just has a real sense of charm. I love the world. It's like it's basically post or like apocalyptic. Like there's these demons that are invading, and everyone so far has lost, but you find this other demon who is more powerful, and the whole sort of crux of the stories you go through is it's like, how much of this demon's power do you accept in order to win out against the other demons, but thus giving up your portions of your soul. And the farther, like the more evil you become throughout the game to become more powerful, you start to look like a demon, getting horns and scales and weird armor protrusions and things.
Oh, so you get horny. Pretty
much. But it's just, I felt like it was handled very well. I felt like the story itself was very deep and engaging. It's also actually got some elements of The Witcher thrown in there. Like there's things you can do to prep for combat before to help you out, give you boosts, and or to weaken certain enemies and things like that. It very much encourages you to do things like scout out areas and lay traps and then draw enemies into the traps so that you have an advantage over them. And it does a really good job with the sense of scale of making you feel like a human who's fighting at sometimes these giant, skeleton monsters or dragon-like creatures, or just in general like giants. They will fuck you up in one or two hits if they get you. But the combat is very satisfying. And it allows for quite a bit of variability as well. You can go sword and board, you can go traditional sorted board. You can use you can dual wield weapons. There's a large variety of battle axes and pole arms and pikes. It's got ranged weapons as well. All those are more secondary. And then of course, if as you go through the game, if you continue to accept more power from the demon, you get spells, fire spells, and you can summon creatures to fight for you and things like that. So it's kind of it suffers a bit from the whole jack of all trades, master of none syndrome.
Yeah, it seems like it's trying to grab from a lot of things. And
so it's got very parts of it that are really good and parts of it that are really bad. And so at times it can be a bit jarring, but overall I found the game to be very enjoyable. And the good parts, particularly in the storytelling and the way that they do handle sort of the morality and the way that characters respond. For example, if you take on demonic powers, they start to become unsettled, and it's like, well, I mean, I'm following you, I guess, because we need to take out the other demons, but I don't like it. And there's one character that if you take on too much demonic influence, he's like, we need you to finish this quest and save the world, but afterwards I'm fucking killing you because you're a demon. So
I'm only mostly a demon.
It's just the story elements were so good in my mind that it overcame the pitfalls that existed within the combat system. But the combat system also had plenty of opportunities where I felt like it shined and did well. I think Dark Souls Light is probably the best way to describe the combat system, because it very clearly is most influenced by Dark Souls.
But very slow, weighty combat.
Yeah, very slow, weighty combat. But there's other aspects in there that allow you to mix it up if you really don't like the Dark Souls style of combat. So, definitely, I think, a hidden gem. And I mean, it's got mixed reviews on Steam, so I think that's another sort of justifier of it. Like, a lot of people didn't like it, so you might have missed it, but I really liked it.
Yeah, mine is pretty well reviewed on Steam, but the thing is, it's also an early Telltale game, and it's one of the few not pure point and clicks. Outside of things like Poker Night at the Inventory and, well, there are other poker games, Puzzle Agent is pretty much the only non-pure point and click. Well, until Telltale has turned into this oddball genre of its own, where it's not point and click, but it's not a walking simulator either.
Yeah.
But, if you play one, you're pretty much able to say, yeah, that's a Telltale game. Or it's just Life is Strange. One of the two.
Yeah. So, that's my pick for hidden gem / underrated type of game.
Yeah, and mine as well.
Sweet. Well, then that wraps us up on this general topic. Again, this will be a repeating topic sometimes whenever we need to fill a little bit of time. So our next topic is, we're just going to go straight to Community Corner. Unfortunately, I have to drive, which I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, get up very early and drive very far. And I'm not 100% sure where I'm going this week, so I'm building a little extra time into my drive just to make sure I don't get lost and miss this place. So we're going to cut today a little shorter than usual. And
yeah, but we'll put the topic we're cutting on the short list for our next episodes. Because it's summertime, so unless, somebody absolutely goes batshit insane again and starts issuing DMCA takedowns, which, to be fair, she's still doing it, by the way.
I know.
It's not like that saga's ended. We could continue talking about that for like the next month.
Yeah, we could get a little more time out of that one. But anyway, so yeah, we'll just move straight to Community Corner. And what do we have this week, sir?
Well, first, that email in the inbox.
Right.
I mean, that is community.
It is. So we received a Patreon pledge, I don't know, what do you would call it, boost, bump up?
Upgrade
from our dear friend Cube. So thank you very much, sir, for continuing to support us on Patreon. We really need to sit down and go through the tiers some. We've got something else which we haven't mentioned yet that we're working on too. And I was going to be working on that, but then everything went helter-skelter with my job. But
Yeah, it turns out, things go absolutely batshit when, how much of the office has been fired at this point?
like 92% of it. Specifically 92%.
So it is literally just you with a Newton's cradle.
Pretty much.
And half a couch. The other half has been fired for inappropriate.
Inappropriate conduct. Oh,
No. Inappropriate contact with a client. Somebody sat on it.
Touching it on the ass. Anyways, yeah, so Cube is now giving us more money, and he hit one of the tiers that we have that we need to take a look at, but
but we're still going to do that, at least for him.
Yeah, for him. So we'll be sending you some.
And if we redo it to do something else, we'll include him naturally.
Yeah. So Cube, we're gonna send you, I guess, our list of general topics. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it. Just let you pick one.
Probably not the full list, but narrow it down some, because there's some that require some heavy research here.
Yeah, but we'll let you pick one,
and especially with you having a life.
Yeah, we'll let you pick one, and we'll do it on the show. Also, I think we would accept you sending us in a topic that you want us to cover. Just please allow us maybe a couple of weeks if it's something that requires research or something like that. I mean, we would love more topic suggestions from people in general. We loved Jim's topic that he sent in about the value of games.
Yeah, which that was also Question of the Week content, 3 weeks ago now?
I don't remember, but sure. 3 weeks sounds good.
Good enough.
So yeah, thank you very much, Cube, for giving us some monies. I like the monies. But we do have a couple of projects that we're working on that we'll be spending that money on. So hooray money.
Yeah, and not all of it's hookers and blackjack.
Yep. We also spend some of it on slot machines and video poker.
Hey, video poker's rigged. Don't do that. Or at least find the good ones,
Right.
All right, so question of the week then?
Right, question of the week.
The question of the week was, I had a little bit of inspiration from our love of Wheatley, but I did the inverse. Who is your most hated minor character in a video game? Jim. Hey, cousin, wanna go bowling? Oh, never before have I wanted to punch a character in the throat so much.
Indeed.
That's my take on Roman. I can understand him being so damn clingy, but yeah. I wish there was actually there was that one mission where Nico was talking about how he's too busy in GTA 4.
Yeah. I actually like Roman in the story context, but I mean, I hate the system where everyone calls you and is like, hey, you want to go hang out? It's like, no, leave me alone.
Well, I think the problem with GTA is the time scale on that, where, what is it, like 15 minutes for a day? So if they try to do a realistic, someone touch base with you a couple times a week, that's, within an hour they're calling you 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And they also have, how many characters is there that do that? 5?
Yeah, it's all of the side characters that you can interact with for missions.
And also, isn't there, if you get past a certain point with your potential girlfriends, they also do that as well?
Yeah, they want to go on dates.
So if you start building up those, oh boy, you start getting your phone to ring off the damn hook. Metaphorically speaking, of course, because it is a cell phone.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kyle, youngster Joey from Route 30 in Pokemon Gold and Silver. I know he's a meme now, but he called more often than Roman in GTA 4, which I didn't even realize that's a meme.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I didn't even think of youngster Joey in probably close to two decades now has it been since Pokemon Gold and Silver. That was the last Pokemon game I really spent a lot of time with. Now that I think about it as well.
Pokemon Gold and Silver, 1999 in Japan, and the year 2000 in America.
So getting up there, huh?
Yeah,
close enough. I mean, I said close to 2 decades. I knew it was around 2000.
Yeah, it's getting close to 20 years.
Damn, I feel old. But yeah, that's what I didn't even realize was a meme.
Yeah, I've seen it on Reddit here and there a few times.
And let's see, we also have Mel's. Can't decide between Counselor Yundala and that bitchy reporter from Mass Effect series. At least you can punch the reporter.
Damn straight, I punched the reporter.
Multiple times.
That's probably the only decision I never did any differently ever. I always punched the fuck out of that reporter.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a reason not to punch the reporter, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Oh, for me, it has to be Bazora Bazora. You're the grand champion.
Yep. For anyone who doesn't know what Rage is referencing, that is the adoring fan you get when you become the grand champion of the arena in Elder Scrolls Oblivion.
Yeah, and it seemed like every time I was in town, I would take a shortcut through the arena district and I would run into him. Until, I got annoyed, and I can't recall if I just killed him outright, if I left him in that one cave with all the undead. Oh, wait, that's all the caves in Oblivion. If you ever saw the documentary about Oblivion, there was one guy that said that I really like the undead. I like to use them everywhere. Well, turns out he designed like half the game.
Yeah.
Or if I just put him in an Oblivion gate and closed it. One of those. I may have just paralyzed him and knocked him off the mountain as well, because that was always a fun option.
I usually put him in an Oblivion gate, and then once the gates were closed, his dead body would show up. Although a couple of times he lived, and he would just be standing in a field. And you'd walk up to him, and he's like, oh, there he is. But most of the time he died if you left him in an Oblivion gate.
To be fair, he was good for target practice. He was my guinea pig as well for various spells. Back when you were actually able to make spells in an Elder Scrolls game. Yes, I know, crazy. Making custom spells. Ooh, high-tech shit. What, I'm not bitter at all?
Definitely not bitter at all. Cool. Was that everybody and then yours, or did you? Okay, I wasn't sure if you finished or if you just jumped in. Mine is Slippy Toad from Star Fox. Specifically Star Fox 64, because that's the one I played the most. And Slippy is also sort of a cliche at this point, but God, Slippy was annoying and useless and
wrong.
And always, yeah. Well, that was Peppy who told you originally to do a barrel roll, which it's not a barrel roll, it's an aileron roll. Guys, it's aileron roll. But to be fair, barrel roll sounds way better, and that's probably what they were going for, was what sounded better.
Or maybe it was the proper maneuver at some point.
Yeah. But yeah, Slippy's just terrible. Save me, Fox! Get this guy off me! Ah! It's like, just die already. Jesus.
Okay, gaming confession. Which this could be a good general topic at some point as well. Gaming confessions.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
I've never played a Star Fox game.
That's fine. You're not missing much.
Wow. I think those are fighting words for a good gaming subset.
I mean, I really enjoyed the Star Fox games as a kid, but I've gone back and played them, and they're just... I mean, you fly your ship... What's the type of game called? I mean, the screen comes at you, and you just maneuver your ship around, and you shoot
them up?
Yeah, I guess it's a shmup. It's a 3D shmup, I guess. That's all it is. The later Star Fox games, in my opinion, were way better than Star Fox 64 and the original Star Fox. The ones that basically made Star Fox into an RPG. And
Well,
where
I
you
was
got
about
out
to
of your
say,
ship.
I was about to say, what, a porn object?
Yeah. No, where you get out of your ship and you go do stuff.
Confuse some young kids about their sexuality.
Oh man, Star Fox is probably what got me into like liking that sort of stuff. Honestly, I can't remember her name. It's been years and years since I played it. But the girl fox that you find on a planet, and then like
oh boy,
she joins your team and becomes your girlfriend. Like she's fucking hot. Absolutely, that game played into me. Like
I guess you're saying she's foxy.
Yeah, she's foxy, but. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the better Star Fox games are the ones that were basically RPGs with a Star Fox skin. So, yeah, fighting words, I guess.
Yeah, but aren't you gonna pre-order the SNES Classic so you can play Star Fox 2?
No, I don't give a shit about that. Star Fox 64 did have some three-dimensional levels, but there were only a few of them, and they weren't as good because the console just wasn't powerful enough to put a bunch of stuff on screen. So when things weren't coming at you in patterns and waves, and they were more free-flying, there's a lot less stuff to interact with, so the game wasn't as fun.
I just want to know whether they're going to release the other games between Star Fox 2 and Star Fox 64. I mean, that's a lot of numbers missing.
It is a lot of numbers missing.
Yeah, get on it, guys.
I mean, they're trying to catch up with Super Mario, you know.
Yeah, but Mario's not even a character anymore. He's a hat and a mustache. He's a parasite.
Let's be fair. Mario was always just a hat and a mustache to me.
True. But now he's become like the world's easiest cosplay. I mean, you could be any character now and put on a Mario hat and a porn mustache and be Mario possessing something else. I mean, the fact that we now live in a world where Mario can possess a photorealistic dinosaur. Or is that just Yoshi in 4K?
Oh, that's good. That was good.
That's a stolen joke, of course, but still. I've seen people doing the retrospectives, characters throughout the ages. Mario doing that. Then it does Yoshi, and it shows the Mario Odyssey dinosaur.
Poor Yoshi.
Well, to be fair, Yoshi doesn't have a good existence anyway. Isn't his entire existence just to do a double jump off of some otherwise insurmountable pits?
Yeah. Yep, that's Yoshi's existence. And to poop eggs. And be cute. I love Yoshi's Island. Bring-ha!
Yeah, I never really played it. Well, I never... I didn't have a Super Nintendo, so I missed a lot of that nostalgia. And we're running into that general topic that we decided to cut.
We are. That's okay. It's fine. We'll just ignore that and move on.
Yeah, we do have one tweet, which I think is an answer to a question of the week from last week. Maybe. From Chemist, Dishonored. Honor for All gets a lot of flack, but I thought it was pretty good. Nothing as good as Plants vs. Zombies, though. Which I'm pretty sure he's answering favorite end credits song. Which gotta admit that the Plants vs. Zombies, Zombies on My Lawn, or Zombies on Your Lawn, I should say, is almost an unfair pick because it is Laura Shiragama, and she's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know who she is, but
she did the soundtrack to a Game Club game that we did not too long ago. And now I'm blanking on the name of the Game Club game, so I just got to go to the Game Club list and wait for it to load. To the Moon, of course. She did the soundtrack to that.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right.
It was just I didn't want to say the wrong thing. It's like and it was our second Game Club game.
Yeah. Great game. All right. Cool. What all now?
Yeah, and if you wish to join the discussion, you can email us, vglpodcast@gmail.com, or just tweet us, vglpodcast, on the Twitter.
Right. So now it's time to go do our Steam Discovery Queue.
Yep.
I can't remember who said it, so I'm just going to go...
Music.
Yeah. That's fine.
And I immediately get Foxhole, which is the early access release of a game that I had on my games to look out for this year. This is a MMO top-down or isometric shooter, depending on your terminology of this, where I think of it as essentially a 2D PlanetSide in World War II. That's probably about the best way I could describe this. It looks very interesting, but it runs into the whole chicken and egg problem of it's an indie multiplayer shooter.
Yeah.
I'm not sure just how many players are playing it, and quickly looking at it on my Chrome so I get my Steam numbers. Oh, but it has a good player base. It has 2,700 playing right now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely overcome the initial issue of indie games.
Yeah, I've played it a few times, but it was still in its pre-alpha state where you had to, I think...
Yeah, it looks a lot better now.
I mean, I enjoyed what I played, but it was very, very bare bones.
Yeah, and it's given me this because I played Company of Heroes and War Thunder. So that's my first one, and I have a second one right away.
Well, that's good, because so far my list is just shit.
My second one, it's not for me, of course, but it's for you. Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator.
Yeah. Is it a gay dad dating simulator?
Yes.
Yeah.
So even more for you, right?
That's already on my wish list.
And the thing is, I saw this on the upcoming games on my review site and thought little of it, but it seems like it's a lot higher quality than what I initially thought it was going to be. Then again, just looking at it and not really looking in depth on it, it's kind of easy to just write it off.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about this game from the people that I trust most to review visual novels and dating sims for me.
Yeah, it's supposedly pretty high quality if you're don't mind a bunch of gay dads. And I think that's going to be the hang up for some people.
Yeah, but I love gay dads.
Well, of course you do. And I guess I should say why Dream Daddy is on here. It's highly reviewed, and that's about it. It doesn't account for the massive amount of visual novels in my library, I guess.
Yep. Well, I'm actually in the middle of my second queue, and I still have got nothing. This all looks like Steam Direct, Steam Greenlight trash.
I got an interesting one. I'm not sure if this is going to be any good, but Citadel, Forged with Fire. This is a online RPG sandbox game. I mean, but it's more fantasy based, and it has dragons. It looks a little bit better than most of the bog standard sandbox survival games. Granted, it is mixed reviews, so I'm not sure if it's just the fact that it's early access, so it's going to have issues or what, but it looks interesting, and it's suggested being this because of Shadow of Mordor and Windward.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm clicking through some more. Oh, what is this? Have you gotten anything yet?
Nope, I'm in my third queue.
Am I going to have to do 3 queues to catch up now?
No, you're getting good stuff. You're getting good stuff. Well, seemingly interesting stuff. I'm not sure how interested I'd be in your things, but...
At least with that attitude, right?
This is just really bee simulator. Be a bee.
Yeah, I've seen that one before. Tacoma.
Oh, Tacoma.
Is a sci-fi narrative adventure set aboard a high-tech space station in the year 2088. It has a very interesting art style that I'm not sure about, but it's one of those things that it looks interesting, so I'll add it to the wish list.
Yeah, Tacoma. I've heard good things about Tacoma, like people who had gotten early looks at it and stuff. It's been on my radar for a while now.
Yeah, I'm pretty much through my queue. I'm skipping a couple things that look somewhat interesting, but don't want to go too deep into them because I've already gotten quite a few things.
Yep.
Well, are you on like Q5 now?
I'm in the middle of my 4th queue.
I was joking about that.
I really have just gotten a whole bunch of garbage. I mean, I'm fine blowing past all the
games
garbage.
have you seen?
So far, none of them.
I still can't believe I got, 3 F1 games? 4?
Yeah.
This looks interesting. This is my last one. It has some real pedigree behind it. It's from Ninja Theory. Hellblade: Sunya's Sacrifice. It looks absolutely beautiful. There's a link for you.
Yes.
From the makers of Heavenly Sword, Enslaved Odyssey to the West, Devil May Cry, comes a brutal journey into myth and madness. Set in the Viking Age, a broken Celtic warrior embarks on a haunting vision quest. This looks very interesting. This is coming out in a few days. And it's a $30 game, so it's not even a full-price AAA game. And it has some really shocking visuals to it. Take a look at those screenshots, Jared.
Okay. What do we got here? Oh, that looks nice.
Yeah, see why I kind of stopped, especially that first screenshot with the main character on a boat.
Yeah, that's
gorgeous.
Just
look at that water. That is. I realize looking at screenshots of the audio podcast, excellent podcasting material.
Well, the last screenshot though. That's some really great looking facial details and animation. The eyes look believable.
Now the question is this gameplay footage or cutscene footage?
Yeah. Also, are these bull shots? Still, that looks gorgeous.
The third to last with the close up of the I'm assuming a girl.
Yeah, I would assume female.
I mean, that's a very feminine looking face.
Yeah.
But the makeup on her forehead and across her eye is just done very well. Well, it looks like Ash, actually, you know?
Yeah. That's gorgeous. Out of that whole picture, the teeth are the only thing that seem a bit off to me.
Yeah, but it could just be, a screenshot.
Yeah.
But look at the eyes, the life in them.
Yeah.
That's one thing, is that eyes are very tough to do in a video game. You get that kind of dead eye look. But it's just that little bit of light in them.
Also known as Andromeda eyes.
No, that's Dirt Face.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was my last Discovery Queue item, and that's a winner if just from the pedigree of the studio.
Yeah, I'll put that on my wish list.
Enslaved Odyssey to the West is an odd game as well.
Yeah. So I finally found one that looks interesting enough for me.
Oh dear God! I just see the name of this.
Yep, Deep Space Waifu. It is a shmup, but it's a strip 'em up instead of a shoot 'em up. I guess I would make it a stimp, strip 'em up. Stimp.
That is one huge ass.
But it's using like shmup principles, but you shoot the girls on the screen and their clothes fall off. You have to avoid the enemies to see the naked anime girls. And this is the best thing that I've gotten in my entire queue. Like, honestly, if I was having a normal queue, I might have even skipped this because it looks real bad.
Wow. No, I went to the Steam group, or the Steam screenshots, just to see how explicit they get, and damn.
Yeah.
Here's something. They must have an adult patch, because there's some that are very explicit, and then there's some that are sans nipples. I mean, if you're going to have a strip 'em up game, like, I imagine this has to be, just how Steam handles things. It's Steam will allow games like this, but only if they have a new patch, of course.
Well, good. That's what I want.
They'll allow a game like this, but they won't allow it to be sold with nipples unless you have a patch or some sort of DLC. It's so weird that Steam does it like this, and that's how they get around being family friendly. Because, a 13-year-old kid will see this and not think, gee, I wonder if they'll have something to add the nipples or add the pussy.
Yep.
It's just, I think Steam really needs to figure out, are they going to allow this full bore without censorship, or if they're going to lock down their store to, rather sexy games. And the thing is, they've made their store more and more and more open. I think we know where it's going. It's just they're reluctant to take that final step.
Yeah.
So, is that the only game you've gotten?
In 4 lists, that's the only game I've gotten.
I'm almost tempted to make
mentioning.
you do. I'm almost tempted to make you do a 5th.
I'll do a 5th list if you want.
See if you actually get something decent. I mean, I don't think you've gone through all of the Steam store yet.
No. I think I've just hit one of those points where it's like, alright, well, we're going to give you some shit now. Just going to give you some garbage. Still giving me garbage. 4 games in.
And for garbage for you is quite the statement.
Ooh. Okay. Yes. Happiness. Solar Settlers. A card-driven space exploration strategy game set in the far future.
Okay, well, give me a link.
Yep. Right, getting it right now. There you go. This game is on my list because I've played Tharsis, Galactic Civilizations 3, and other things. It says you already have this game. I assume you copy?
Yeah, I was about to say, wait a minute, this looks familiar. Yeah, review copy.
I'll put in for a review copy too. Who knows? Might get it. But it looks pretty nifty. I'm up for that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm a little shocked that it hasn't really been expanded on, is card-based games that aren't, Hearthstone, or aren't the multiplayer CCGs. Taking the card and deck building elements and putting them into like an RPG. I mean, I've seen a couple things like that, but never really expanded upon,
Yeah. So after that, the next 4 games so far have been... They look like they belong on Newgrounds.
Gotta live Steam Direct, huh?
And that's another queue, yeah. So 2 games and 5 queues.
Yeah, you can see why I've felt like I've needed counseling after signing for review copies, huh?
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of bad shit coming out. And the thing is, I'm not sure if it's going to get better or worse.
Probably
to
worse.
be fair, I'm looking at the recent releases. There's one called Hold My Beer.
And watch this.
No. They don't have the subtitle. That's the sequel. It's literally just, it's a VR simulator at that. Of doing stupid shit.
Sounds boring.
Well, to be fair, VR experiences like that, oh boy, this is going to probably get me in trouble with at least one person. The fact that a game is in VR tends to set the bar a little lower on expectation for at least some players, because there's just not that much out there for VR yet. So you're more, I think people are more willing to play something that's less than great, because your options are limited still.
Right.
I wonder how much trouble I'm getting in right now.
Who knows? It's fine.
Who knows? Maybe I'll prompt an email.
I hope so. All right. Well, that wraps up our discovery queue. I'm not going through another queue. Which that brings us to the portion of the podcast where I always go first in talking about my stuff and things. And if you want to see my stuff and things, you can do so over on YouTube by searching for Gaming Psychologist. I've got several...
Wait, they allow that on YouTube?
Yeah, they do. I've got several videos up and queued. It's Divinity and Straight as a Pretzel and things like that. So just my usuals as I plow through more work-related issues, although hopefully those are behind me and things can get back to being a little more, I don't know, exciting and interesting. My sub count is still over 100. It's like 105, I think, today. Or maybe 104. I don't know. I can't really be asked enough to go look, so it's there, and that makes me happy. And I got my own custom URL, youtube.com/C, for some reason. I don't know what the C's there for, /gaming psychologist.
Well, couldn't you just put, have it, go for the Mexican version of the or something?
L.
Well, I was blanking on it. It's like, wait. I'm going with this joke because I know it's a letter, but I'm blanking on it from trying to talk. Well, fuck it.
Anyways, yeah, so youtube.com/C/gaming psychologist. You can also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at JMA4707. I tweet about all kinds of things, only which 75% of them, give or take, are political, mostly give.
Especially lately.
If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. That should be back to normal this week. Last week, we had to take the week off so that Rach and I could catch up, or not catch up, but get ahead on some recording stuff. Because next week, my kid is having surgery. It's minor stuff, tonsillectomy, but they are worried about a couple of complications just because of drug allergies that run in my family. So we're just, to be safe, we're taking the day off and not going to record that night. So I'll post on Twitter that when everything's okay, for those of you out there who I know will be concerned. And I do appreciate.
Wait, I'm supposed to be concerned? I'm joking.
I do appreciate your concern and your love for the small version of me that I made a few years ago. He's quite adorable most of the time.
Well, they look at it this way: the 2.0 version can't be worse.
That's what you think. Also, not with that attitude.
Well, I am factoring, at least a portion of Katie as well.
Yeah, fair enough. But yes, Twitch streaming. Once again, twitch.tv/jarthur4707. I also appear on another podcast, which I briefly mentioned earlier in my YouTube stuff. That's Straight as a Pretzel. I do it with our very own chemist here. It usually premieres on Mondays, whenever we're able to record. We're on a less set recording schedule right now, so...
Well, see, that's what happens when you have, 8-9 hours between your time zones?
Yeah, it's like 8, but when daylight savings is gone, it's 9, and then he has daylight savings at some point, I think. It's weird.
Yeah, then you have to break out the decoder rings to figure it out, and...
But anyways, it goes up on most Mondays at straightpretzel.wordpress.com, I think is the website. Or on Twitter at straightpretzel. Also, if you want to be my friend on Steam, You can send me a friend request. My username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests, and still the streak is unbroken. Everyone who adds me as a friend is always super nice and cool, and I like talking to and playing games with super nice and cool people.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is Dalmatian.
It's good.
Dalmatian. Well, for me, obviously this week, since I talked about it, new series going, actually is already live, The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 3. I will admit that at least the beginning of the series is not exactly as impactful as I was hoping, but I'm hoping that, as the story picks up, and this is the final chapter of the story, that gets more interesting. Then again, this is my content, so there you go. Let's see, RimWorld. RimWorld. Yeah, it is resetting. This is the final week of Alpha 16. My episode count for it was 117 episodes of Alpha 7 or Alpha 16. And the series should end 12 hours after this podcast goes live. Which means that new setup going on. I had a failed recording session on my first attempt on Alpha 17, mostly due to a cat just yelling in the background that I didn't hear with my headset on, and also it wasn't a particularly good start to begin with, so instead of struggling and trying to salvage, I'm just going to try recording again tomorrow night. And of course that means all names are back in the list, and I already know who my first three are. I actually have a question. I want your opinion on this, Jared.
Okay.
Since Be Cool is paying us a fair amount of money, do I move him up the list, or do I remove him from the list so I stop killing him?
You move him up the list so he appears more, but you give him a shittier job.
Well, what's Groove going to do then?
Die.
Yeah, but if he dies, then he can't whine about hauling. Matter of fact, I specifically added a mod so that even if he shows up and incapable of hauling, he could still haul. It removes the incapable and makes it hated. So you can imagine what Groove's going to be doing.
Maybe we could somehow use this as a way to convince Groove to give us money on Patreon. I don't know how we're going to figure that out, but I'm a therapist, so I'll just psychology that shit.
No, I have it. I installed a mod for that has hauling robots. Every single one of my hauling robots are going to be named after him.
That would work.
Of course, if he shows up on my name list, thankfully, I have the list right here. Let's see, where is Groove on here? Groove is pretty far down the list. Yeah, maybe, I can name all my hauling bots after him and not be confused when I see a bunch of Grooves running around.
There you go.
It's something to figure out. Anyway, RimWorld's resetting. I need to do some of the work for that, which means setting up the new thumbnail template, and also writing out all the mods for the mod list, because there's a few. Let's put it this way. I mod it till it breaks, then I dial it back a little bit. Unfortunately, I had to ditch the psychology mod. It was having some weird interactions. So, sorry, Jared.
Nah, it's okay.
It's a very interesting mod. It's just, it has some odd interactions with a few things that I really wanted to use. And let's see. And of course, Divinity still ongoing. I mean, what else is there to say on that, right? Divinity's probably going to go through the end of the year.
Probably. But we're still enjoying it, so that's good.
Yeah, a little confused about the story at this point, because, we've had 2 major stoppages. I think we should have took notes as we played, right?
Yeah, I'm not really struggling. I'm sure
Well,
I've
it's
forgotten
more.
some incidental details, but
Yeah, it's more. Why are we here again? I've had that. Yeah, once or twice. It's like, wait a minute. Who? Oh, right, that character. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. But yeah, all of that and the Sunday Sampler, which hopefully will be a better game this time around, but not counting on it, appears on my channel, Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or Gaming with Rage, if you wish to just use the URL directly. And if you wish to see me tweet somewhat randomly about, well, I think my last linked up tweet was me bitching about a cat ruining RimWorld, and before that, the English with the end of the Bluetooth speaker saga. Hey, if your Bluetooth speaker has a heating phenomenon, don't worry, it's normal. You find all of that over at Gaming with CR, which means we are at the end of the show. Once again, if you wish to contact us, our email is vglpodcast@gmail.com with your voicemails, letters, gaming-related topics, general topics, or just, what Jared could do with himself. Because I'll blame him.
Oh, I like that idea, but I'm not sure they will.
Or you just tweet us those ideas, even though I have a feeling Twitter may censor some of that. VGL Podcast on Twitter. If you wish to help to pay for this absolute madness, well, we do thank you for that, and you can do so over at Patreon, patreon.com/VGL Podcast. And our RSS feed can be found vglpodcast.podbean.com with the show notes, or you just find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever Jared decides to stick it. And also the podcast as well. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and our Discovery Key music is Doobly Doo. Wait for, there we go.
I love that still makes me chuckle sometimes.
Also by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com until he goes absolutely insane with DMC takedown notices.
Indeed, and as always, you can... Oh, well. I messed it up. I messed it up. Take two, and as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye-bye now.
And that makes me laugh way too much.
Bye-bye.
It's been a night of just loud noises.
God, that is so loud. Yeah, that's louder than usual.
Yeah, that's a very energetic train. Now, I imagine that's going to be Franken content, huh?
At this point, I usually do. If it's a short one, I leave the train in. If it's long, I usually just rip the whole thing out and
I would say rip
just
that one
delete
out.
it. Yeah. Also, goodbye, children. Bye-bye.
I have a feeling they need an adult after that.
See yourselves out the door, little children.
Are you doing your Michael Jackson impersonation now?
I'm going to jail for being a pedophile. Hee hee.
Well, at least it's not the Bill Cosby.
Zip zap zippity zoo. Oop dop doo doo doo. I don't have as good of a.
And now we just insert the Bill Cosby Cowboy Bebop music here.
All right.
Or have you never heard that one?
I haven't. But
don't worry, you're about to.
All right.